Greetings, 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 greetings. It is I, your king, King Clifford Jefferson, a senator of God for the fifth kind of man Jew, son of folk, ruler of Jerusalem. I'm the reincarnation of King Edgar the Peaceful, which we know here at the Third Temple English Church is Jesus Christ, or the Messiah, or the Anointed One. I greet you in the name of our forefathers, our ancestors, our successors, our predecessors, and all those who are trying to get an understanding of what it is that we are called to do. Please your name of my Queen, Sister Galveston from the House of Galveston, Archbishop Belmont from the House of Belmont, Bishop Search from the House of Searcy, C.A. Murphy from the House of Murphy, as well as all other officers from the Third Timothy Church of England, trying to give you an understanding of what it is that we are here and called to do. Once again, it's a beautiful day to be here, or a beautiful evening to be here with you this evening. Hope you all got your coffee, got your danishes, everything that you need, because this is going to be a marvelous lecture. It's going to be actually, it's not part two of my previous lecture, but this lecture is called In the Beginning, We Created the Heavens and the Earth, right? In the beginning, we created the heavens and the earth. I wait a couple of seconds for my moderators to get on, right? All those new to the channel, please subscribe, right? Welcome all gifts, donations, etc. All right. As well as the open invitation to the platform, or we could join you on your platform. But as we know, truth is universal, right? We just want to get the message out to our people that it's time to come home. When I say home, it's time to come to the church, come back to the church. What church is that? The Third Temple English Church of England. Because that is where your salvation lies. Okay? I got a beautiful lecture, and I'm going to draw right from our book. Okay? Book I created. It took me um, a day or two to create. All right. And like I said, I didn't come to change the law, but to fulfill the law. So everything that I detailed in this book, you can pretty much find on Wikipedia or any other uh, source of information. All right. It can be qualified because, like I said, it's nothing new. I didn't create anything. I just brought it to you in a format that's better for you to understand and comprehend to further your growth to the state or zero reference that is the time frame that we're subject to. Okay, which we're going to talk about again today. Right. So without further ado, let's get started with this beautiful lesson titled "We Created the Heavens and the Earth." Okay, we created the heavens and the earth. He's an Archbishop Bound from the House of Belmont. Glad you could join me. Nobody missed none of this. Hmm. 21 pages that's going to tell our life story. 21 pages. Those who can keep up, better. Genesis. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. We are the gods because we were created in God's image. So we created the heavens and the earth. My job is to make you see or let you know so that you can not just feel your gods, but know your God by way of you remembering that you come from God, that you are created with the God status. Okay, no one is ever going to break this down to you like the Third Covenant Church of England is going to break it down to you. The Curios Genesis. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. When we're talking about the heavens and the earth, we're talking about the universe. All right, all the planets. All right, universe, all the planets, all the stars, all the galaxies, all right, that exist within this universe. All right. We know the universe encompasses all space and time, all that occupies space and all that subject to time. Okay. If you don't believe what I wrote down in the Third Covenant English Church guide, then you can go back and reference any word or term that I use because it all has either a scientific, astrobiology, it can either deal with science, physics, geometry, mathematics, history. It all comes down to what it is that is being displayed before you. Okay? When you view this lesson, don't view yourself as a human because you'll never see it. Humans evolve. There's a time when you were not. So you can't view this lesson as a human. You must view this lesson as an ethereal, an individual made of ether, an etheric person. All right? That's not composed of matter. All right? Your mind is mental. Okay? Your mind is a mental that operates on what we call mental waves, brain waves. Okay? Mental waves, brain waves. All right? So even though we're looking at visually trying to interpret what it is that we have, it must be discerned mentally to prove what it is that we are and what we have. Okay? But without further ado, let's get started. Greetings, Bishop Searchers from House Association. Glad you can join us. When we question the topic concerning God, angels, or extraterrestrial life, alien life, or colloquially simply alien, something outside this planet, all right? According to history, according to science, no life has been found outside this earth. Okay? When we question the topic concerning God, angels, extraterrestrial life, alien life, or colloquially simply aliens, is life which does not originate from Earth. Okay? Within this terrestrial spirit. No extraterrestrial life has yet conclusively been detected. Okay? No extraterrestrial life, which we call aliens, has been detected thus far. All right. Until now. Okay. How we know it? Because such extraterrestrial life can start from a single cell organism known as the prokaryote to intelligent beings, all right, such as sapiens, possibly bringing forth civilization that might be far more advanced than the human species, i.e., what we perceive ourselves to be today. Okay, so they're saying from the prokaryote came the intelligence that will bring into existence life forms more intelligent than human beings, which we assume to be today. Okay, so in order for us to understand that, we must understand astrobiology or cosmology. The Drake equation speculates about the existence of sapient life elsewhere in the universe. The science of extraterrestrial life is known as astrobiology, which means what, y'all? The study of the stars. Okay? The study of the stars. We know our universe came as a result of a collapsed star by way of what we call supernova. Okay? So what gave life to the universe? Okay, which created all the planets, Earth, everything from God, angels, uh, birds, beasts, fish, minerals. All right. What was the intelligence that gave or sparked that intelligence to give life or to start life on this evolution? Okay. This is what we must know to return home. Because the ladder going from this place up to where we descended down from. Okay. Is very, very important. Universe in all space and time. So when we perceive God's creation, we have to see it from its start, and that will be the start of our universe. All right, and we know that as we read that extraterrestrials or alien life, which God will consider to be an alien, exists outside this planet, and it has to exist outside this universe for it to create the universe. Okay, and that it would created everything, include that exists within the universe. All right, started from some source. Okay, our obligation is to find out that source. Okay, and the only way we can find that source out is to study what? Astrobiology, the study of the stars. Let's study the universe in all space. The universe is all of space and time in their content. Did y'all hear that? The universe is all space and time in their content. So when we say space and time, we're talking about things that are subject to the time continuum, past, present, and future, and all space that takes up mass, i.e., volume. Okay? Volume. Even though we can't see it, we still have to understand that all involves space and time. And if it involves space and time, it involves energy and matter. Okay? So it says the universe in all of space and time and their contents is comprised of all of existence and any fundamental interaction, physical process, and physical constant. And therefore, all forms of energy and matter and the structure they form, from subatomic particles to entire galactic filaments, space and time, according to the prevailing cosmological theory of the Big Bang, emerged together 13.787.0.020 billion years ago, and the universe has been expanding ever since. So it says the universe was created through the Big Bang 13.787 some odd billion years ago. All right, and it's still expanding. Okay, it's still expanding. What is causing the universe to expand? Okay, let's see. In physical cosmology and astronomy, so in physical cosmology and astronomy, dark energy is an unknown form of energy that affects the universe on a largest scale. Okay? Dark energy, you got dark matter, dark energy, and original matter, which is called baryonic matter. But we're talking about dark energy, all right? And it said in physical cosmology and astronomy, we're talking about astrobiology, all right? It says dark energy is an unknown form of energy that affects the universe on the largest scale. Its primary effect is to drive the acceleration expansion of the universe. Assuming that the lambda CDM model of cosmology is correct, dark energy is the dominant component of the universe, contributing 68% of the total energy in the present day observable universe, while dark matter and ordinary baryonic matters contribute 26% and 5% respectively, and other components such as neutrinos and photons, which are nearly negligible. Dark energy density is very low. Did you hear that? Dark energy is very low, which means it has to be at absolute zero. Okay? 0 point energy. All right? 0 point energy. Dark energy density is very low, much less than the density of ordinary matter or dark matter within galaxies. Okay? However, dominates the universe's mass energy content because it's uniform across space. Okay? So it says, and I repeat again. However, it dominates the universe mass energy content because it's uniform across space. So dark energy is as I said, is uniform across space. And it consists of 68% of dark energy, 26 point parts of this 68.3% of dark energy, 26% of dark matter, and 4% of what we call original matter. Okay, as we just said. The first observed observational evidence for dark energy existence came from the measurement of a supernova, a collapsed star. Okay, measurement. This is called reference of time. We'll talk about that in a second. Okay, it's called a reference of time. Type 1A supernovas have constant luminosity, which means they can be used as accurate distance measures. Okay? Comparing this distance to the redshift, which measures the speed at which the supernova is receding, shows that the universe expansion is accelerating. Okay? And we know it accelerates by way of what we call ether, because ether permeates space by way of what we call vacuum, which light can travel. You know, light is energy, okay? Dark energy. Comparing this distance to the redshift, which measures the speed at which the supernova is proceeding, shows that the universe expansion is accelerating. Prior to this observation, scientists thought that the gravitational attraction of matter and energy in the universe would cause the universe expansion to slow over time. Since the discovery of the acceleration expansion, several independent lines of evidence have been discovered that support the existence of dark energy. Okay, this is also called potential energy. All right, potential energy or action potential. All right, these terms you must understand. We're going to go through them later on, and that they're displayed in this book. But you must write these terms down. Okay, potential energy, or what we call energy, electric energy, what's it called? Electric energy potential, okay? Potential energy, or what we call is due transduction, action potential, right? So they're saying that the expansion of the universe can be measured, okay? It can be measured, and we're going to show how it's measured later on in this podcast, okay? From studying the effects of gravity on both matter and light, it has been discovered that the universe contains much more matter than is accounted for by visible objects, stars, galaxies, nebulas, and interstellar gases. This unseen matter is known as dark matter, okay? Dark matter. In astronomy, dark matter is a hypothetical form of matter that appears not to interact with light or electromagnetic field, which is called potential energy or action potential, okay? Or electric energy potential, okay? Or electromagnetism, okay? Or electromagnetism, all right? So it says dark matter is implied by gravitational effects which cannot be explained by general relativity unless more matter is present than can be seen. So we know that general relativity deals with space-time. We know that dark matter deals with special theory of relativity. Okay, you got special theory of relativity, and general theory of relativity. All right, they ain't deal with general theory of relativity is subject to what we call space-time. We know anything dealing with space is time was created by way of a supernova or a gravitational collapse of a star, which created the universe, which consists of all what we call space and time. We just read it. I didn't make it up. Okay. Main components of the universe. Ordinary baryonic matter, 4.9%. Dark matter, 26.8%. Dark energy, 68.3%. The shape of our universe, its margin is flat. Okay? It's flat dealing with if you look at it from E equal MC squared energy matter constant speed of light by way of what we call vacuum, which means it's void of space, 0 point energy. Okay? You must understand that. You will by the time you finish this lecture. Okay? So we understand that anything dealing with talking about God, extraterrestrial, or alien life, as we read, says deals with anything that exists outside of this planet. Okay? And we know that God created the universe and all the planets, especially this one that we live on. Okay? And we know that extraterrestrial life can be considered a single cell organism known as prokaryote, all the way up to intelligent life that will possibly give birth to intelligent life that succeeds human standards. Okay, we just read that. All right, so let's get a good picture of Earth. All right, because we can't even look at the universe because the body's confined to the terrestrial sphere. Okay, our physical bodies are confined to the terrestrial sphere. So the only way we can perceive the Earth or the universe is through our astral body, which happens or personified by way of thought. Because thought is based upon consciousness and cognitive faculty, which we'll discuss in a second. But hold that thought. Right. So we're gonna look at the Earth, all right? Because that's the spirit that we're assumed to be subject to, based off our physical composition. All right. We're looking at it not from that perspective, but from our astral body, as ethereal, okay, ether of dark energy, made up of dark matter. Okay. That's how we should view this lesson. Earth, archaea, bacteria. So we already deal with the universe and how it was created by way of a supernova of a gravitational collapse star, okay, which gave birth to our universe, which encompasses all space and time, all right, everything that's composed of matter and energy as we see it, all right. So let's deal with the Earth. Let's break down the Earth. Earth is the third planet from the sun and the only astronomical object known to harbor life. You know what I'm saying? Very important. Out of the 9 planets, Earth is the only planet that's the third planet from the sun that's able to harbor life. We know life is based upon that which consists of as a living organism. Okay, life is consists of living organisms. Okay, that manifests through what we call the state of evolution. Okay, evolution. But we understand that everything that exists on Earth evolved through the process of what we call evolution. All right, that's very important. Earth is the third planet from the sun and the only astronomical object known to harbor life. This is enabled by Earth being an ocean world, okay? Meaning that it ain't just water, but Earth came from the water by way of what we call volcanic action, volcano, all right? When that atmosphere was created, this is when the water came by way of what we call water vapor, which we discussed in a second. This is enabled by Earth being an ocean world, the only one in the solar system, I might add, sustaining liquid surface water. Earth has a dynamic atmosphere which sustains Earth's surface conditions and protects it from most meteorites and UV light at entry. Okay, this is radiation. It has composition of primarily nitrogen and oxygen. So oxygen and nitrogen is what creates our spheres to protect us from incoming meteorites as well as ultraviolet light that might damage human beings on Earth as well as anything on this planet by way of the ultraviolet rays of the sun. Okay, it can be harmful. So this is the reason why our atmosphere is composed of nitrogen and oxygen. Okay, to protect us from the ultraviolet light of ultra UV light at entry. Then it goes on to say, water vapor is widely present in the atmosphere, forming clouds that cover most of the planet. The water vapors act as a greenhouse gas, and together with other greenhouse gases in the atmosphere, particularly carbon dioxide, creates the condition for both liquid surfaces, water, and water vapors to persist via capturing of the energy from the sun's light. This is called photosynthesis, causes the greenhouse effect. Okay, we know when plants breathe in breathe out carbon dioxide. So we breathe in oxygen and breathe out carbon dioxide. Plants breathe in carbon dioxide and make oxygen. Okay, this all is the process of how the life force is causes what we call thermodynamics, which is nothing more than what we call kinetic energy. Okay, that cause things to grow, to move, to form. Okay. So we understand that our Earth's atmosphere is composed of nitrogen and oxygen, and we know that water vapors, which creates a greenhouse effect, is composed of what we call carbon dioxide, which traps the sunlight, okay? Which traps the sunlight, which is composed of what we call water vapors, which we call clouds. The oldest material found in the solar system, we're talking about the universe, all right? Everything that composed of space and time, all right? We know that space-time deals with the three-dimensional to a fourth dimension under the same time continuum. That's what space-time is. Okay, so it's the oldest material found in the solar system is dated to be 4.5, 682 plus 0.002 dash 0.004 uh, GA billion years ago. Okay, GA, I forgot what that term stands for, but 4.5 some odd billion years ago by 4.54.0.4 GA, and the primordial Earth had formed. The bodies in the solar system formed and evolved with the sun. So we see the bodies that we call planets form and evolve with the sun, all right, by way of the gravitational collapse of a supernova, which is a collapsed star, okay? In theory, a solar nebula partitions a volume out of a molecular cloud by a gravitational collapse, which begins to spin and flatten into a circumstellar disk. And then the planets grow out of that disk with the sun. Okay? This is all on Wikipedia. You can track this source. Okay? You can track this information. So we see our universe, the planets, as well as the planet Earth, all came about by way of a gravitational collapse of a sun called a supernova. And as a result of that, all the material that came as a result of that collapse created our universe, our galaxies, our stars, the planets, as well as this Earth, okay? And the molecules or the molecular structure continue to evolve or expand or create what they call a symbiosis, all right? This is when we get into the origin of life on the planet. Because when the planet cooled off, then that genetic material that we call that single cell organism called the prokaryote allow organisms to start the process of evolution. All right. We know that the prokaryote is a genetic cell that's able to pass on the genetic material to foreign organisms. Okay. To foreign organisms do what they call horizontal gene transfer. Horizontal gene transfer. Okay, let's get there. Origin of life. Earliest life known form in history of life. Chemical reactions led to the first self-replicating molecule about 4 billion years ago. Now we know that the universe was created how long ago? 13.787 billion years ago. Okay? We know that the prokaryotes were created 4 billion years ago, because we're about to talk about the prokaryote now. And the prokaryotes were the bacteria and archaea that came along with the formation of this planet that we call Earth. Okay? Chemical reaction led to the first self-replicating molecules about 4 billion years ago. A half billion years later, the last common ancestor of all current life forms. Okay, this is called the tree of life in biology, or what we call the great chain of being. Okay, this is what evolution is all about. It's about tracing all life forms, all living organisms, whether they're living or extinct, and comparing all those living organisms to the last universal common ancestors. Did you hear what I said? The last common universal ancestors, not just common on this earth, but common in the universe. So if you're going to find your last common ancestor, not just here on earth, but in the universe, then you must exist before the universe. And the only thing that exists before the universe was called dark energy. Okay? Dark energy. So once again, origin of life. We're not looking at life from the human being, because human being was the last thing to be created in the book of Genesis. All right? So we have to understand that everything has a life form. It's called a living organism based off its genetic material that makes up that organism. Okay? We were here, or we were there before the organisms even came into being, that gave birth to that which was to be created through what they call uh, 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 evolution. Okay? Evolution. Chemical reactions led to the first self-replicate molecules about 4 billion years ago. A half billion years later, the last common ancestors of all current life arose. You hear that? And we know life form is things that has the cosmic breath. Okay? The cosmic breath. Okay? Or the breath of life. You either got the cosmic breath or the breath of life. In humans, the breath of life is H2O. Okay? Air. Okay? But that's the life force that gives vitality to human beings and every other life form on this planet. But the cosmic breath is the breath that we have as a theory. Okay? So we see the last common ancestor of all current life arose. The evolution of photosynthesis allows the sun's energy to be harvested directly by life form. We know the sun's energy is captured by what we call the greenhouse effect, which is by carbon. Okay, we also know that our planet is protected by nitrogen and oxygen. Okay, which protects it against the UV light rays from the sun, as well as meteorites or any other foreign body coming into the terrestrial plane. Okay, the evolution of photosynthesis allows the sun energy to be harvested directly by life form. The resulting molecular oxygen O2 accumulated in the atmosphere, and due to the interaction with the ultraviolet solar radiation, form a protective ozone layer O3 in the upper atmosphere. We just said that. Okay, we just said that. The incorporation of smaller cells within larger ones resulted in the development of complex cells called eukaryotes. It didn't say a prokaryote, it said a eukaryote. The eukaryotes came by way of what we call prokaryotes. And prokaryotes are extraterrestrial genetic material that evolved, were here before the planet was created, because it's considered an extraterrestrial gene, okay? That's able to give life to all intelligent life, even beyond that of humans. Okay? There's your source right here. Berkner, L. B. Marshall, L.C., 1965. The origin and rise of oxygen concentration in Earth's atmosphere. Now we're going to see that there's proof of that first genetic material that found here on Earth to give life for that gave the vitality for life to start the evolving planet through what we call the eukaryote. So we see that the first oldest known fossilized genetic material found on Earth was the prokaryote, which was laid down approximately 3.5 billion years ago, only about 1 billion years after the formation of Earth's crust. Did you hear that? After the Earth's core crust. All right. So that genetic material was implanted or impregnated in the Earth's core, which we know Earth deals with rock, mineral. Okay. Earth is mineral. All right. That's all a part of the great chain of being, or the what we call the the tree of life. All right, tree of biology. Eukaryotes only appear in the fossil recorded later and may have formed from endosymbiosis of multiple prokaryote ancestors. You hear that? Endosymbiosis of multiple prokaryote ancestors. So the eukaryote descended from the prokaryote. Once again, the eukaryote cells descended from the prokaryote. The oldest known fossils eukaryotes are about 1.7 billion years old. However, some genetic evidence suggests eukaryotes appeared as early as 3 billion years ago. Our Earth is the only place in the universe where life is known to exist. Some have suggested that there is evidence on Mars of fossils or living prokaryotes. Okay, so prokaryotes, which is an extraterrestrial genetic marker, was not just found on this planet that was found in the Earth's crust, but was also found on Mars. Okay, so let's discuss what these genetic material is. All right, since they go back 3.5 billion, 4 billion years ago. All right, and we know that the universe was created 13.787 billion years ago. All right, and every other planet within the universe containing all space and time came along with it. Okay, and the first life form came from a eukaryotic cell. Okay, which start the process of evolution. And without that prokaryote, you will not have a eukaryotic cell. Okay, so let's discuss these. One, a prokaryote. A prokaryote, less commonly spelled prokaryotes, is a single cell organism whose cell lacks a nucleus and other membrane bound organelles. So it means if it lacks a nucleus or membrane bound organelles, that means the genetic material cannot be transferred. Why? By way of what we call membrane potential or energy potential, electric potential, what we call action potential, because action potential results from what we call transduction, which we'll discuss in a minute. So we see prokaryote, or less commonly spelled prokaryote, is a single cell organism that lacks a nucleus and a membrane. Okay? Two, the eukaryotes constitute the domain of eukarya. Eukaryota are organisms whose cells have a membrane-bound nucleus. So prokaryotes don't have a membrane nucleus, and the eukaryotes do have a membrane and nucleus. Okay? All animals, plants, fungi, and many unicellular organisms are considered eukaryotes. So that means that all animals, plants, fungi, and many unicellular organisms have a eukaryote. That means human beings as well. Okay? Because you all were a part of what we call evolution to what we call mitochondria DNA. All right. Without that prokaryote, there would not be no process for mitochondrial DNA, which is a form of what we call the eukaryote. Okay, which has a membrane and a nucleus with the genetic material in it for it to start the process of evolution. All right, becoming unicellular or what they call multicellular. Okay, all animals, plants, fungi, and many unicellular organisms are considered eukaryotes. Four, archaea. This is a prokaryote. Archaea is a domain of a single cell organism. These microorganisms lack cell nucleus and are therefore prokaryotic. Okay, they lack a membrane in the nucleus. Okay, but still can pass off genetic material to foreign organisms known as eukaryotes, which has a membrane and nucleus. Okay, which allows other cells to become unicellular and multicellular. Okay. Five, Asgard or Asgardiotadia is a proposed superhelium superphilium consists of a group of archaea that contain eukaryotic signature protein. It appears that eukaryotes, the domain that contains the animal, plant, and fungi, emerged within Asgard. Okay? So we see the term Asgard is where archaea are derived from, which we know archaea are prokaryotes. Arcadia are called prokaryotes, which exist in what we call Asgard. And within Asgard are the eukaryotes, which allows for unicellular or multicellular, which is a process where evolution started, which animals, plants, fungi emerged from. Okay? And they all exist in what they call Asgard. Now, it's mighty strange that Asgard is not going to be in a place where Odin, Thor, Heimdall, and Loki told it that it came from, because Asgard is right here on Earth. Okay, let's prove it. And Asgard, which is the territory that the what they call the Nordic folklore said they came from, the Nordic kings. They said they came from Asgard, and Asgard has a uh, 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 biological term called Asgardiocadium. Okay, which is just said is a proposed superphilium consisting of a group of archaea that contain eukaryotic signature proteins, which were animals, plants, and fungi had. Okay, and they all emerged from Asgard. Okay, they are emerged from Asgard. You also have terms called Loki archaea, which is a proposed phylum of archaea. All right, which is Bokyrio. Then you have Thorough archaea, from samples taken from White Oak River in North Carolina, named in reference to Thor, another Norse god. White Oak River estuary in the United States contains Odin Arcadia and Heimdallia Arcadia. Following the Northern deities naming convention, these groups were named for Odin and Heimdall respectively. Researchers therefore named the superphilium containing the microbes Asgard after the home of the gods in Norse mythology. Asgard, North, Vikings, and Frankish are all the same people. Okay? So as we can see, Loki, Thor, Odin, Heimdall were all deities who lived in Asgard. But Asgard is associated with what we call the eukaryotic world, okay? Where everything evolved, okay? From plants, animals, to fungi, including humans, okay? Let's prove it. Now, we know when you're watching one of the movies dealing with Asgard, Thor, there was an episode dealing with the ether, right? And who guarded the Bifrost? All right, the Bifrost was the bridge. Okay, the bridge was a what we call a vacuum that's void of space where light can travel through, and it's celebrated by what we call ether, because ether permeates space by way of vacuum, which is void of space where lightning can travel through. This is where Heimdall comes in, because Heimdall was protector of the Bifrost, right? Which allowed entry from Midgard to Asgard, okay? And we know that Heimdall was of darker complexion, all right? He had a black facade, which is called ether. We know that when the elves came to obtain the ether, who did they send to obtain the ether? A black guy, okay? They send a black guy to get it. So you must understand the symbolism in this, or the metaphors that they're using to qualify their existence, which was a result of what we call evolution. Because in our actuality, we're the ones who created the heavens and the earth. Let's prove it. Asgard, not from the mythology or the folklore or the movies. We're looking at Asgard from a scientific classification, because science it means to study. Okay, the domain of Asgard is Arcadia. Okay, Arcadia is considered a prokaryote, right? And look where they're found. Look where they are found. You got one in Asia, one in Africa, and one in Europe. Okay? One in Asia, one in Africa, and one in Europe. But you got 5 over here in North America. Okay? And we're talking about the Berkerial yolks and the Eukaryotes, which was the life force given here for all evolution to take place. And so if we did what we call the Outer Africa story, then this proves that they were lying. Okay, this proves that the Outer Africa of human life form did not originate in Africa. It originated in what we call North America. Here's your proof. There's a bigger view. All right. Hydrothermal vent sediments, hot spring sediments, mangrove sediments, microbial mat, marine water, marine sediments, estuary sediments, freshwater hydrosoil, terrestrial soil. This goes back billion years ago when the earth was cooling off. Okay? All right, when the earth was cooling off, this genetic material was already impregnated in the earth's crust before water even came into existence, came on the planet. Okay? We must understand what is going on. All right. So we see most of the Asgard is here in North America. It's not up there in the sky. It's right here in North America. Okay, where the first genetic material was planted into the earth to start the evolution process. All right, which we call the tree of biology or the great chain of being. Started from God to angels to humans to plant. I mean to beasts to plant to mineral. Okay. Right. First thing was on the planet. Planet came the universe and this universe came as a result of collapsed atoms. Okay. Then came the viruses, bacteria, Arcadia, which gave birth to the Prokaryote and the Eukaryote. The Prokaryote and the Eukaryote. Here's your Prokaryote, and here's your Eukaryote. Eukaryote is considered what we call mitochondrial DNA, which allows the process for evolution to take place for all life forms on the planet, including humans. Okay? Including humans. That's why the title of this book is called Eukaryogenesis. All right? Eukaryogenesis. Point 6. I need a coffee room. All right. Eukaryogenesis. Eukaryogenesis, the eukaryogenesis, the process which created the eukaryotic cell and lineage, is a milestone in the evolution of life, since the eukaryotic includes all complex cells and almost all multicellular organisms. Okay, so we understand that eukaryogenesis is the process which created eukaryotic cell. We know all eukaryotic cells are what lives in what they call Asgard. Okay, and Asgard is composed of archaea and bacteria, which is prokaryotic cell. Okay, and prokaryotic cell gave birth to the eukaryotic cell, which is the milestone in the evolution of life. You know, evolution of life deal with all life forms. Okay, and it says since eukaryotic includes all complex cells and almost every and all multicellular organisms. Life arose on Earth once it had cooled enough for oceans to form. Did you hear that? Life arose on Earth once it had cooled enough for oceans to form. So that means the prokaryotic cell and the eukaryotic cell was already here. That's when God said, and the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the deep. Okay? The Spirit of God moved upon the face of the deep. All right? Genesis, the second verse. Genesis, the first verse, God created the heavens and the earth. Okay? The heavens and the earth. That's the Big Bang, collapse, supernova. Okay? All right? And it said the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the deep. That's the prokaryotic cell as a result of what we call the expansion of the universe by way of ether. And we know ether permeates space, all right, which is called dark energy composed of dark matter, all right, and we know dark energy is 68.3%, dark matter is 26.8%, and ordinary matter is 4%, 4.8%, okay, or 4.9%. So we see eukaryogenesis is the process which created eukaryotic cell and lineage, which is called cell lineage, okay? Cell lineage is the milestone in the evolution of life since eukaryotic includes all complex cells and almost all multicellular organisms. So we must remember all of this, y'all. We must remember all of this if we're going to be at the top, right? Life arose on Earth when it has cooled enough for oceans to form. The last universal common ancestor, all right, last universal common ancestor was the organism which had ribosomes and the genetic code. It lived some 4 billion years ago. It gave rise to two main branches of prokaryotic life, the bacteria and the archaea. From among these small cell rapidly dividing ancestors arose eukaryotes with much larger cells, nucleus, and distinctive biochemistry. The eukaryotes form a domain that contains all complex cells and most types of multicellular organisms, including animals, plants, and fungi. Okay, so it's been reiterated. Okay, so in order for you to understand that you are none of these, then you must understand astrobiology, because the first cell that gave rise to the eukaryotic cell was a prokaryotic cell. The prokaryotic cell was an extraterrestrial cell. In order to understand extraterrestrial cell, you must understand astrobiology. Okay, astrobiology. Astrobiology is a scientific field within the life and environmental science that studies the origin, early evolution, distribution, and future of life in the universe by investigating its deterministic conditions and contingent events. As a discipline, astrobiology is founded on the premises that life may exist beyond Earth, extraterrestrial. Research in astrobiology comprises three main areas: the study of habitable environments in the solar system and beyond, the search for planetary biosignatures of past or present extraterrestrial life, and the study of origin and early evolution of life on Earth. So we must understand that for us to understand, which is to understand astrobiology, if we so-called claim we come from the stars. Okay? We must understand that. We all term this as immortality, which is a concept of eternal life in which some species possess, including humans. All right. But in order for you to understand that you are immortal, you must understand immortal from a mental perspective, which involves thought. Okay. Thought, not sensory stimulus. All right. But the process of thought, which is conscious and cognitive faculty. All right. Which we'll talk about in a minute. We all term this immortality, which is a concept of eternal life in which some species possess, including humans. Now, when we mentally think, the mind is not attached to your body. So your mind is immortal, all right? Your mental state comes from an immortal state, all right? But you have yet to discover it, but you will discover it today, all right? Some scientists, futurists, and philosophers have theorized about the immortality of human body, which some suggest that human immortality may be achievable in the first few decades of the 21st century with the help of certain technologies such as mind uploading, contrast to digital immortality or digital uploading. Okay? Mind uploading. Mind uploading is a conscious cognitive faculty, which we'll discuss in a minute. Okay? Why the church is here. We're not talking about the physical body. We're not talking about the five senses, okay? Taste, touch, smell, sight. But these are based on what we call sensory stimuli, all right, which is nothing more than a perception. You don't know, it's a perception, all right? We have to distinguish what we call stimuli perception to mental perception, okay? Mental perception. Mind uploading is a speculative process for whole brain emulation in which a brain scan is used to completely emulate the mental state of, of the individual in a digital computer. Okay, so this goes into what we call the matrix. Yes, because we know digital computer deals with input and the computer. Okay, if you don't put that information in the computer, then it will have no input. Okay, mind uploading works the same way. In order for you to mental upload, you must put that information into that upload by way of what we call observation, okay? Observing through seeing, okay? Which is a faculty of the somatic nervous system, which we're talking about now. Mind uploading is a speculative process of whole brain emulation in which a brain scan is used to completely emulate, all right? You know what emulate means? To take the place of the mental state of the individual in a digital computer. The computer will then run a simulation of the brain's information, okay, based on what you tell them. I mean, based on what the computer picks up. The computer will then run a simulation of the brain's information processing such that it would respond in essentially the same way as the original brain experience have under a sentient conscious mind. So that means that the digital computer imaging will work the same way as a sentient conscious mind, okay? By emulating, okay? Emulating the mind. And the only way it can emulate the mind is through what we call brain waves, okay? You know what brain waves are, right? Brain waves are a form of what we call neural oscillation, a movement of light, which is energy, by way of converting that energy message to what they call a stimuli, a neural stimulation, which then becomes the electrical signal, okay, that the brain has to internalize and make sense of, okay, but not the mind, not the mind. The mind is the conscious faculty, okay, our cognitive faculty, okay. So let's see. The computer would then run a simulation of the brain information processing such that it would respond in essentially the same way as the original brain in experience having a sentient conscious mind. Sentience being the simplest or most primitive form of cognition, consisting of the conscious awareness of stimuli without association or interpretation. Okay, once again, sentience being the simplest or most primitive form of cognition, consisting of the conscious awareness of stimuli without association or interpretation. Okay, perception without perception. All right. This is called in physiology transduction. Okay, transduction. Transduction, which is the translation of arriving stimulus into the action potential or energy potential or electric energy potential, okay, which is called action potential, which is nothing more than kinetic energy, all right? Thermodynamic, which is kinetic energy, which deals with motion, energy, and motion. Energy, emotion, hence the word emotion. Emotion. So this is called psychology transduction, which is the translation. All right, you know what means translate, right? Translate is means to interpret the arriving stimulus into an action potential by sensory receptors. It begins with stimulus changes the membrane potential, i.e., action potential, i.e., energy potential, i.e., electrical potential, i.e., of the receptor cell. The receptor cell is nothing more than a neuron, what you call a sensory neuron, okay, or a sensory receptor. All right, it does nothing but translate arriving stimulus. A receptor cell converts, you hear that? Converts the energy into a stimulus into an electrical signal. Receptors are broadly split into two main categories, internal and external. Okay? An external sensory and internal sensory. external sensory is from the outside, internal sensory is from the inside. Okay? Neural oscillation or brainwave are arithmetic or repetitive patterns of neural activity in the central nervous system. Okay, all right. This is based on external and internal sensory as a result of electrical signals that originate from stimuli by way of conversion of energy. Okay, by way of conversion of energy. We must understand that. And energy is a result of what we call transduction, the translation of that energy, all right, which is the message. The energy is the message. The message then becomes the stimuli, which then becomes what they call the electrical signal, right? Here's a picture. It's the sun, okay? Electromagnetism frequency range from gamma rays to radio waves. We'll talk about that in a second, okay? But gamma rays to radio waves, highest being gamma rays and lowest being radio waves. Human beings are on the radio frequency, okay, not the gamma frequency, okay, because your brain waves are operating based off the neuron receptor cell, okay. The neuron receptor cell is governed by your somatic nervous system, which is your five senses: taste, smell, smell, and sight, which is the wrong way of observation. You shouldn't be observing your existence or existence in that manner. Okay? That means you got your signals crossed. All right? We know a signal is energy. All right? Energy is the message which represents the signal. Collection of that information is based upon how the information or the energy gets to where it needs to go. All right? So that means that you're looking at the eye, so we see majority of the collection of information that we see is through the visual system, all right, which is a sensory cell called rod and cone cells in the retina, which converts the physical energy of light into electrical impulses that travel to the brain, okay? So the brain has to process the information that comes through the stimuli, which results to electrical signal by way of the conversion of that energy by way of transduction, which has to be processed by the brain. That then causes what we call action potential. That action potential is that kinetic energy, that motion, that movement, because we act off impulse, okay? We act off impulse. So we must view how our actions result from the processing of the information that is translated by way of the collection from wherever the signal comes from. Hold up for 1 minute. We was calling to say good night. I'll talk to you tomorrow. Good night, we'll go. Okay. So the five systems that we use in regard to interpreting or translating those incoming energy or messages that creates a stimuli, which then creates an electrical signal, which the brain has to interpret it, which then causes action potential. Right, Bishop Searchy, is limited to your essence. All right, your true essence. We're going to find out what that is. In the visual system, sensory cells called rod and cone cells in the retina convert physical energy of light signals into electrical impulses that travel to the brain. Two, in the auditory system, sound vibrations, mechanical energy are transduced into electrical energy by hair cells in the inner ear. Three, in the olfactory system, odorant molecules in the mucus bind to G protein receptors on olfactory cells. All right, this is smell. In the gustatory system, perceptions of five primary taste qualities: sweet, salty, sour, bitter, and savoriness depends on the taste transduction pathways through taste receptor cells, G protein, ion channels, and effective enzymes. And five, in the somatosensory system, the sensory transduction mainly involves the conversion of mechanical signals such as pressure, skin compression, stretch, vibrations to electro-ionic impulses through the process of mechanical transduction. transduction. This is all resulted from what we call transduction precurial yokes. Okay, transduction precurial yokes, because we know transduction means the translation of incoming energy, which are messages, into chemical stimuli, which creates an electrical signal. And we know that that electrical signal that gave birth to the eukaryote yolks, which starts the process of evolution on this planet, originated from the prokaryote. So that means that the prokaryote had some genetic information in it to pass on to that foreign genetic material called the eukaryote, where evolution started from, which all things came to be. Okay, when all things came to be. So let's look at transduction of the prokaryote. And we know how the transduction of the eukaryotes started by way of the genetic material being embedded in what we call the nucleus and the membrane, which is called the cell. Okay, this is the what we call mitochondrial DNA genome. Okay, but without the prokaryotes and the information in the prokaryote, which is genetic information that originated in the stars. Okay, and the essence that came from the star, which is that ether, okay, that dark energy, okay, that dark matter, which we are composed of. Let's get there. Transduction of prokaryotes. 4.5 billion years ago, found in the Earth's crust, okay, laying dormant, okay. Prokaryotes were found 4.4 billion years ago when the Earth's crust was coming to formation, okay. All right. And that didn't come in until the universe was created, which created all the planets, which was 13.787 billion years ago. Okay. Very important. You must understand that because it's how we know ourselves through what we call engrams. Those stored memories through what we call thought. Okay. Thought. We're going to discuss that. Transduction, prokaryotes. Transduction is the process by which a virus transfer genetic material from one bacterium to another, okay? So we look at transduction through biology. Now we're looking at transduction through what we call viruses, okay? Passing on genetic material through viruses, and those viruses are the bacteria and archaea, okay? Which starts the process for all evolution on this planet, okay? All life forms. Transduction is the process by which a virus transfers genetic material, you hear that, from one bacterium to another. This is called horizontal gene transference. All right? Horizontal gene transfer. Contrast to vertical gene transfer, okay? Which we'll discuss momentarily. Viruses called bacteriophages, if I'm announcing wrong, please forgive me, are able to infect bacterial cells and use them as hosts to make more viruses. After multiplying, these viruses assemble in the case they remove a portion of the host cell bacteria called DNA. All right. Later, when one of these bacterial ophages infect a new host cell, this piece of bacterial DNA may be incorporated into the genome of a new host through what we call eukaryotic cell. Okay, eukaryotic cell. Definition of transduction. Because transduce is derived from the word transduction. All right. So transduction are composed of the word transduce or transducing. So what is transducing? Transduce or transducing, one means to convert something such as energy or message into another form, essentially sense, organ, transduce physical energy into a nervous signal. Okay? Once again, transduce or transducing, a transitive verb, to convert something such as energy or a message into another form, essentially sense, organs, transduce physical energy into a nervous signal, i.e., sensory neuron, what it calls a sensory neuron or a neuron receptor or receptor cell. Same thing. 2, to cause genetic material to undergo transduction. You hear that? So to cause genetic material to undergo transduction, we means to translate that information. Okay? Transduction means to translation of incoming energy, which is a message, into a stimuli, which causes electrical signal, which we call nervous signal. All right? right there. I'm not making this up. Let's see how majority of us convert energy, i.e. the message, is through visual transduction, okay? Which is the wrong way. Intergumentary system, which is the in, closest internal body structure site of many sensory receptors. We know sensory receptors, neuron system, okay? You have the intergumentary system, the skeleton system, the muscular system, the nervous system, the endocrine system, and the cardiovascular system. All right. So you have six systems. The intergumentary system, the skeletal system, the endocrine system, the muscular system, the nervous system, the endocrine system, and the cardiovascular system. Now, which one is the most important system out of all the six systems that I displayed? Which one? The nervous system. The most important system of all is the nervous system. Because without the nervous system, you will not get those electrical signals which the brain can interpret. Okay? We know the brain interprets the electrical system through the somatic nervous system. We know that originated from the stimuli that originated from what we call the message or the energy by way of transduction. All right? So transduction through your visual faculties is not the way to convert the message. Okay? It's not the way to translate the message that's been given to you from your forefathers. Okay? The ones who created the heavens and the earth. All right? In order for you to perceive what's being said to you based off the message, because the message came through the etheric body. We know that ether is what? Ether permeates space by way of vacuum, which is void, which light can travel. We know light is energy. Energy is a message, and message is converted by way of transduction into a stimuli, and a neural stimulation, which then becomes what we call uh, uh, light is turned to a neurostimulation, which creates what you call electrical signal. Okay, so now the etheric body transduction. So we've seen the visual transduction of the physical body through our five faculties. Now we're going to see the etheric body transduction based upon how it's supposed to be perceived. Okay, etheric body transduction. The etheric body or the ether body or ether body is a subtle body propounded in the esoteric philosophies as the first or the lowest layer in the human energy field or aura. Okay? This is called dark matter. Okay? The etheric body is said to be in immediate contact with the physical body, and to sustain it is connect with the higher, and to sustain it and connect it with the higher body. It is also said to consist of a finer substance more pure and composed of smaller particles than the ordinary matter of physical plane. Okay? So we know that when the universe created, it's created of how much? 68% of dark energy, 22% of dark matter, and 4% of ordinary matter. And ordinary matter is that matter that consists of that which is on the physical plane. All right? Which consists of all universe and space time. Anything that consists in space and is subject to time. Okay, which ether is not. Okay, ether is not subject to space time. Ether created space time. Okay, so in order for you to be the creator, you must be an etheric person. Okay, in order for you to become an etheric person, you have to remember your etheric self. Okay, which is based off thought. Okay, thought. Let's read that one more time. The etheric body, ether body, or ether body is the subtle body propounded in esoteric philosophy as the first or lowest layer in the human energy field, all right, electromagnetic field, okay? energy field, electromagnetic field, or electrical field. Same thing, okay? All right? The etheric body is said to be the immediate contact with the physical body and to sustain it and connect it with the higher body. So it's connected. It is also said to consist of finer substances, more pure and composed of smaller particles. We're talking about molecules, molecular structure, than the ordinary matter of the physical plane. Okay? So you can't view this or see this with your five faculties, I just said, as I just said, through what we call visual transduction. You must see this through etheric body, through your etheric body through transduction, which is the only way you can interpret this lesson. Ether element, or the classical element of ether. In order to understand the ether body, you must understand the element of ether. According to ancient and medieval scientists, all right, ether, alternative spelling include aether, or ether, also known as the fifth element or quintessa, is the material that fills the region of the universe beyond the terrestrial sphere. So it said it fills the region of the universe. We know the universe consists of all space and time with all energy and matter. So you ain't talking about regular kinetic energy, all right? You're talking about dark energy, right? And dark energy is called ether. And ether permeates space, which is void of space, i.e. matter, i.e. mass, all right? Due by way of a vacuum, okay? So it says here, according to ancient and medieval science, ether, alternative spelling include aether, or ether, also known as the fifth element or quintessence, is material that fills that region of the universe beyond the terrestrial sphere. So ether was there in that space before that space was there to put the universe there. Okay? The concept of ether was used in several theories to explain several natural phenomena, such as the propagation of light and gravity. In the late 19th century, physicists postulated that ether permeated space, providing a medium through which light could travel in a vacuum. I just said that. Okay? So it ain't like I'm making this up. I just said that. All right. You go right there on Wikipedia, Britannia Dictionary, or Encyclopedia, and they'll take the same thing. Light is created by way of ether, by way of a vacuum, which is void of space, which is going to be permeated, which means created. That's when God said God created the heavens and the earth. All right. He made space to create the heavens and the earth, i.e., the universe and the planets and everything within it. Let's really define these words first. We know ether, it said what? Permeates space, all right? And allows light to travel by way of vacuum, okay? That's what it said, ether. So we see ether is an element that permeates space, all right? That fills the regions of the universe before the universe even got there, all right? Beyond the terrestrial sphere, all right? And provide a medium through which light could travel in a vacuum. And vacuum means void, vacant. Let's read it. Let's define it. Vacuum. It's a space devoid of matter. Do you hear that, y'all? Matter means mass, and mass means volume. Okay? That means that it's not empty. It's not void. All right, but it says vacuum here means void or vacant of that space, which is how, and the reason why it became vacant or void is a result of ether, because ether permeates space which light can travel through. Okay, so what is space? Two. There you go, Archbishop. Ethereum permeates space. I like that. And what is space? Let's define space. Space is a three-dimensional continuum containing positions and directions. That's called a reference frame. We're going to talk about that in a second. A reference frame. In classical physics, physical space is often conceived in three linear dimensions. All right. Modern physics usually consider it with time to be a part of a balanced fourth-dimensional continuum known as space-time. And we already said that the universe consists of all space and everything subject to time. We just said that, right? So it just said space is a three-dimensional time continuum. All right. We know what time is. Time is based upon past, present, and future. And we're in the present right now. We ain't even got to the future, and the future is considered the fourth dimension, which is called quintessa or tesseract, or what they call it up here. Quintessa or the fifth element, okay? Or the fifth element. So we see vacuum is void and vacant of space, right? So that way you can have space for this three-dimensional space that's going to be occupied by matter, okay? By matter. When we say matter, we're talking about dense matter, that which has density, all right? Which we perceive through our physical transduction, which is wrong because we should see it through etheric transduction, which is our etheric self. So we see space is the three-dimensional continuum containing the position and direction, a point of origin and a point of finishing, of finishing. All right. So, yeah, and that's what we call a reference time, a reference point. All right. The space is a three-dimensional continuum containing positions and direction, and classical physical space is often conceived in three linear dimensions. Modern physics usually consider it with time to be part of a boundless four-dimensional continuum known as space-time. Okay, we know space-time is everything that composed of within the universe. Three, matter. Matter is a classical physics and general chemistry. It is any substance that has mass, takes up space by having volume. So we're not talking about vacuum, voidness, or vacant, all right? Because it says matter, it's composed of, it takes up space, having volume, or having mass, okay? So we're not talking about dark energy. We're not talking about dark matter, all right? We're talking about ordinary matter, which is only 4% in the universe, okay? Four. In modern physics, antimatter is defined as matter composed of antiparticles or partners of the corresponding particles in ordinary matter. It can be thought of as matter with reverse charge. The amount of energy released is usually proportional to the total mass of collided matter and antimatter. This is called kinetic energy, okay? Thermodynamics, all right? This is the amount of energy released is usually proportional to the total mass of the collided matter and antimatter, in accordance with the notable mass energy equivalence of equation E equals mc squared, energy matter constant speed of light. That's called antimatter, okay? The idea of negative matter appears in past theories of matter that have now been abandoned. Using the once popular vortex theory of gravity, i.e., space-time, vortex, what they call black hole. Using once popular vortex theory of gravity, the possibility of matter with negative gravity was discussed by William Hicks in the 1880. Between 1880 and 1890, Carl Pearson proposed the existence of squirts and sinks of the flow of ether. Did you hear that? Ether. I ain't playing around. All right? Ether. So we read vacuum, we read space-time, all right? Fine, one we just read. We divided vacuum, space-time, we define matter, all right? We define antimatter. We also define antimatter, okay? We define antimatter. Now we can go to 5. 4 was antimatter. We're going to go to 5, which is space time. Right. 5. In physics, space-time is a mathematical model that fuses the three-dimensional space and the one dimension of time into a single four-dimensional continuum. Space-time diagrams are useful in visualizing and understanding relativistic effects such as how different observers perceive where and when events occur. That's through yourself, okay? This is called self-diffusion, okay? Molecular diffusion or just plain diffusion, okay? Which we'll talk about in a second. In physics, space-time or space in time, okay? Because let's go back up here. We define space, right? We define space. And it says space associated with time, right? Which denotes to space-time, which is, as they said, is a three-dimensional continuum under the same time continuum to a fourth dimension, all right? To a fourth dimension. In physics, space-time is a mathematical model that fuses the three-dimensional of space and the one dimension of time into a single fourth dimension continuum. Space-time diagrams are useful in visualizing the understanding relativistics effects, such as how different observers perceive where and when events occur. So you must understand space-time or anything within that space that's subject to time outside of that space-time. And the only way you can do that is through your etheric body, through etheric transduction. And we know etheric transduction is the translation of the incoming energy or messages by way of converting that energy into a stimuli, and then that in turn becomes an electrical signal that in which you internalize either by way of thought or by what we call sensory stimulation. Okay, sensory stimulation to your receptor cells, and that's the wrong way to translate that information. You must do it through thought, and we're going to show you how to do it through thought when we continue with this lesson. But we must define our makeup. We know our makeup is confined of ether, contrast to the air that human beings breathe, because that air that human beings breathe are subject to the terrestrial spirit that the planet Earth is subject to. Okay, and we didn't originate in this Earth nor with the universe because they all came in a package there. Okay, they all came in a package there. We know that everything that's composed of within this planet Earth, all right, it's what human beings are subject to, and every other life form that originated from that eukaryotic cell. We know the eukaryotic cell allow for unicellular and multicellular organisms to evolve. Okay, to evolve. We see here the word ether in Homeric Greek means pure fresh air or clear sky. In Greek mythology, it was thought to be the pure essence that the gods breathe, filling the space where they live and analogous to the air breathed by mortals. So when you're talking about ether, the ether, as we said, was the air that the gods breathe, and we know that ether is what preeminated the universe, which means that God created the universe, and if God created the universe, which permeated by ether, that means that this God must be ether because the ether is the creator. Okay, and it said it was the air breathed by gods. Okay, contrast to the air breathed by mortals. Air breathed by mortals is another molecule created by way of, as I said, along with this planet. Okay, along with this planet. But said it is also personified as the deity Ether, the son of Erebus and Nymphs in traditional Greek mythology. We're not Greek, so we don't have to use that mythology or that folklore. We have to associate it with those who have something in common with us, and this will be the Ethiopian. Ether is related to means to incinerate, to intransitive, to burn, or to shine, related to the name Ethiopius or Ethiopian or Ethiopia, meaning people with burnt black facades. Okay? Burnt black facades, yes. That ether is our breath of life that we must return to versus the air breathed by mortals, all right? Because that originated through the eukaryotes, all right, which was embedded in the planet 1 billion years ago. All right, we know the Mercurio was here 4 billion years ago, which gave ability for the eukaryote, which is the multicellular or unicellular genetic material, to unfold. Okay, so as you said, Bishop Searcy, the breath of life is the cosmic breath that we must return to. Okay, that ether. How do we return to that ether? By memory. Memory is a mental faculty which is based upon thought. Okay, So we must rely on engram. I didn't make this word up. It's a word that already exists. An engram is a unit of cognitive, it's a faculty of consciousness. An engram is a unit of cognitive information imprinted in a physical substance, theorized to be the means by which memories are stored as biophysical or biochemical changes in the brain or other biological tissue in response to external stimuli. You only got two: external and internal stimuli, okay? Which is through your receptor cell, which is through neuron sensory, which is based upon the electrical signals that resulted from the stimuli, which was a result of the converted energy, which entails the message, which is the information imprinted in the memories going back to your cell lineage, which is called the engram, okay? We must understand that, all right? So an engram is a unit of cognitive information imprinted in the physical substance, i.e. that mitochondrial DNA, that eukaryotic cell, all right? Theorized to be the means by which memory, all right, that memories past, present, in order to get to the future, okay? The memory is there, okay, to get to the future while you're in the present, okay? That's called space time, okay? So it says that an engram is a unit of cognitive information imprinted in the physical substance, theorized to be the means by which memories are stored as biophysical or biochemical changes in the brain or other biological tissue in response to external stimuli. So this is the information that we must remember. Breathing has nothing to do with your physical faculty. Breathing has to do with your mental faculty. All right? That causes the molecular diffusion. Okay? So yeah, it's good to breathe here using the breath of life, which we breathe in air, but that's not our true state. So the only way to get to our true state is having a mental evaluation of ourselves and not a physical evaluation of ourselves, because the physical evaluation is through visual transduction and not a mental evaluation that's come to etheric transduction, conversion of that etheric energy or that etheric message for you to come home, okay? For you to come home. Demonstrating the existence of an exact mechanism and location of neurologically defined engram has been a focus of persistent research for many decades, all right? And it still is. They don't know how. The only way you can receive the memories that through engram, which is stored through biophysical or biochemical changes in your DNA, is through by way of what they call cell lineage. Understanding your cell lineage, all right? What is cell lineage? Through cell lineage, the developmental history of a tissue or organ from the fertilized egg. This is based on the tracking of an organism's cellular ancestry due to the cell division and relocation as time progresses. This starts with the originator cell and finishing with the mature cell that can no longer divide. This is called the last universal common ancestor. You are the last universal common ancestor. And the cells have that information stored by way of engram through biochemical or biophysical information that's embedded in the DNA, i.e., your mitochondrial DNA, right? I.e., your membrane, okay, and the nucleus of the cell, which is called the mitochondrial cell, which you call in the egg the zygote, if that's the right name. All right, let's move forward. Cell lineage, okay? So the only way you can understand cell lineage, once again, is through your etheric cell, and that only comes through by way of what we call astral projection, okay? Astral projection, coming outside of yourself, having an outer body experience to obtain those engrams, those memories stored inside your DNA, not your physical body, inside your cellular DNA, okay? Which when it awakens, it starts what they call molecular diffusion or atom diffusion, okay? Which we'll discuss in a second. So we see that in order for you to know your etheric self, there must be or start the process of what we call astral projection, which is the outer body experience. Let's read. You're doing it now, by the way. You're actually astral projecting now. Astral projection is a paranormal interpretation of an outer body experience that assumes the existence of one or more non-physical planes of existence and associated body beyond the physical, commonly such planes are called astral, etheric, or spiritual. Okay, those who in the abstract world call it spiritual. Those are in the etheric world call it etheric and astral body. Okay, which is the concrete way of understanding through cell lineage by way of what we call engrams. Okay, so astral projection is the paranormal interpretation, okay, of an out of body experience. So we're interpreting the out of body experience based on what we see in the out of body, which is our mind, through mental projection. Okay, projecting the mind. Okay, that's what consciousness is. Consciousness results from what we call judgment, deliberation, fact finding, which is based upon image, idea, memories, imagination. Okay, this is all a part of conscious cognitive faculty. Okay, which we'll talk about in a minute. Okay, so we know that the astral body is the astral or etheric or spiritual body. All mean the same. Astral projection often experienced as the spirit or astral body leaving the physical body to travel in the spirit world or astral plane. Okay. Early collections of out-of-body experience cases have been made by Ernesto Bazzano in Italy and Robert Krokal in UK. Krokal approaches the subject from spiritualistic position and collected his cases predominantly from spiritualistic newspapers such as the Psyche News, which appears to have biased his results in various ways. For example, the uh, majority of his subjects reported seeing a silver cord connecting the physical body and its observing counterparts, whereas uh, Green found that at least less than 4% of her subjects noticed anything of the sort, and some 80% reported feeling that they were a disembodied consciousness with no external body at all. You can really do that just by closing your eyes. Everybody close their eyes, right? All you see when you close your eyes is nothing but empty space. Okay? Nothing but empty space, something that's void of space. And how do you see that? Empty space. Not your brain. You see it with your mind. Okay, that's when you pray, most of the time you close your eyes when you pray, so it won't be disturbed by the outside influences or the external influences that cause the mental to be disrupted. Okay? Very important for you to understand that. So a lot of people talking about civil court, I find it hard to believe because to see something, a civil court, it takes a faculty of vision. Okay, all right, it takes the faculty of vision. If you see if you see yourself in mental, then you shouldn't see a physical body. A mental image or a mental perception of yourself shouldn't be based off a physical perception of yourself. It shouldn't be that way. Page, page 10. The civil court is a metaphysical studies and metaphysical studies in literature, also known as Sutrama or life thread of the Ataka Karana, refers to a life-giving linkage from the higher self, Atma, down to the physical body. It also refers to the extent of synthesizes of this thread in a second part. So let me read that again. It also refers to, let me get some water, hold on. Okay, so the civil court is a metaphysical study in literature, also known as the sutrama or life thread of the Atakarana, if I'm pronouncing wrong, please forgive me. Uh, refers to a life-giving linkage from the higher self down to the physical body. It also refers to the extended synthesis of this thread in a second, the conscious thread passing from the soul to the physical body that connects the physical body to the etheric body, onward to the astral body, and finally to the mental body. Okay? So we understand that the astral body or the etheric body is the only way that you're able to receive the engrams, which are the memories stored in what they call your cellular DNA. Okay? Your DNA. Okay? And we understand that those memories that stored in engrams to all the body parts of it. Those engrams that are stored in your DNA, which you can only obtain through what they call your astral body or your astral self or your etheric self, can only be done through what they call autobiological memory. Okay? Autobiological memory. That's why it's called AM in the morning, okay? Not at night, because at night you're sleeping and you don't have any control over your mental state or the dreams that manifest through your mental state. But through autobiological memory, through what we call daydreaming, you have access and you have controllable access to those records, which are called engrams, which is called memories that are stored in your cellular lineage. All right, which when you retrieve them through your etheric body or your etheric self, which you're being taught to do today. Okay, so what is autobiographical memory? Autobiographical knowledge base contains knowledge of the self, used to provide information on what the self is, what the self was, and what the self can be. This information is categorized into three broad areas: lifetime periods, general events, and events of specific knowledge. Did y'all hear me? The only way you could obtain the memories, i.e., the engrams that are embedded in your genetic material, is through autobiological memory. Okay, this is the only way to build your true self. Okay, and to make uh, conscious awareness through consciousness and your cognitive skills of your self awareness of who you are, where you are, and what the self is. Okay, because the autobiographical knowledge base contains knowledge of the self, used to provide information of what the self is, what the self was, and what the self can be. This is a transition, a transformation. This information is categorized in three broad areas: lifetime periods, general events, and event specific knowledge. Okay, which is can be done in the astral body, okay, the etheric body, or your spiritual body through mental uploading. Okay, we all know what mental uploading, right? Mental uploading is the transduction of information by way of converting that information, i.e., that energy, into a stimuli by way of electrical signal. Okay, and the electrical signal can be done on many ways. Okay, which we're going to talk about further on in this lesson. But let's show you an example of what we call autobiographical memory, which is the method for knowing about self, what the self is, and what the self can be. All right, let's see an example. This is why the temple is so important. This is why the church is so important, because everywhere you go in life or what you do in life all determines how you build the self. Okay, all determines how you build the self. The self. Okay, and most of that is based off visual transduction and not etheric transduction. You know, transduction is the conversion or the translation of energy, which is the message, into a stimuli through what we call neurosensory receptor cells or neuron receptors, which is comes to what we call electrical signal that the brain has to interpret. Okay, the brain has to interpret, not the mind. The mind is not doing anything because the mind is not our focal point, which it should be. Okay, which it should be. But the examples that are given doesn't benefit the mind. It benefits the physical self, such as the examples I'm about to give you now. Examples of what we call what we call autobiological memory, all right, is based upon lifetime periods which are composed of general knowledge about a distinguishable and deemed time in the individual's life. For example, the period spent at school or entering the workforce. Lifetime periods have a distinct beginning and an ending, but they are often fuzzy and overlapping. Why? There's a gap missing in that experience. All right? There's a gap missing in that experience. Lifetime periods contain thematic knowledge about the futures of that period, such as the activities, relationship, and the locations involved, as well as temporal knowledge about the duration of the period. Okay? Very important that you understand what autobiological memory is. All right? The memory of your true self through what we call engram through cell lineage, and the cell lineage is based off the information or the general genetic material embedded in that cell, okay, through what we call the eukaryotic cell, which gave the ability for all life to exist on what we call this planet Earth, okay? This planet Earth, all right? So you see the examples. Now, what example are you going to take? The ones given to you, school, work, college, or are you going to use the example given to you here today at the Third Temple English Church of England? All right. And the example that's given to you here at the Third Temple English Church is based on what we call autobiological memory to obtain the engram, which is stored memory about the true self, which could only be done by way of what we call an outer body experience, OBE. So what is OBE? You're having that right now, an outer body experience. An outer body experience, OP or sometimes UPI, is a phenomenon in which a person perceives the world from a location outside their physical body. Isn't that what we're doing? We're viewing our world, our universe, the creation of the universe, our world, and everything in it outside our physical body. Isn't that what we're doing right now, y'all? To what we call daydreaming, because daydreaming is thinking about something other than what you normally would be doing, like watching TV, going to play ball, eating. We sit here and reveal information based upon records that preceded us, okay? To what we call daydreaming. And daydreaming is a stream of consciousness that detaches from current external tasks with attention drifts to a personal and internal direction, okay? You must understand what's going on. All right? This is why I have a picture of the cosmic breath. Through meditation, we can obtain the cosmic breath. All right. I'm not just talking about this mental, I'm talking about mental focus. Okay. Mind focusing. Okay. Very important. Obtaining the cosmic breath through an autobiological memory, which is the outer body experience. Seeing yourself outside of your physical self. Okay. Seeing yourself outside of your physical self, and that's only through what we call transduction. Okay, transduction of the etheric self, and not transduction of the visual self, which is the physical self. Physical self. All right, ethering. Etho, we know, it pertains to etho, and etho derives from ether. Okay, as projection, absolutely right. Ethylene, also spelled ethylene or ethylene, was an old English term, ethylene, used in Anglo-Saxon England to designate princes or royal dynasty who were eligible for kingship. Okay? The term in English in Old Saxon compound of athlete, appellee, or athel, meaning noble family in English, which means belonging to. It was usually rendered in Latin as Phineas speeches king's son, or the Anglo-Saxon neologism Clito. Okay, so God, king represented the interpretation of God, and if you're the king's son, then you are all the sons of God. Okay, very important for you to understand. Okay, which all this information is obtainable through, as Bishop Searcy said, astral projection. And astral projection is an OBE or out of body experience that's done through what we call autobiological memory, which is the ability to be able to obtain those memories called engrams that are stored in your cellular, which is came about through what we call the eukaryotic cell. And the eukaryotic cell contains the genetic material for all life forms on this planet, and including humans. Okay, yes, ether is a noble gas. That's why we're noble. S, prefix in the qualifier ethyl, is ethyl alcohol. Originally came from the name ethyl. It's signed in 1834 by Justice Beebe. He coined the word from the German name ether of the commonly called ether. In English, more specifically called diesel ether. The Greek word wood, raw material, hence matter or substance. Okay, it's very important. So we understand no matter what you call it, it all originated from the originator, which is called ether. Okay, ether. We know ether gave birth to space, and we know space is void, empty and void, which light can travel through. We know light is the energy. We know the energy is the message. We know message needs to be translated or interpreted by what we call the stimuli that we receive through the electrical signal that are interpreted through our sensory receptors, okay? Which we got 6 of them. Taste, touch, smell, sight, and then you got the mental perception, okay? Which we really don't use, okay? We don't use our mental perception, which is our conscious perception of how things are, okay? This is why Alfred the Great created the Dooms book or the Doom book, okay? Which was the book in regards to, let's read about it. All right. According to the classical, or so. According to classical Jewish sources, the Hebrew year 6,000 years marks the latest time for the initiation of the Messiah age, or the return of Messiah. Right, the return of Messiah. The Talmud, Midrash, and Zohar state that the date by which the Messiah will appear is 6,000 years from creation. This is 2024. 2024 is the year 5784, which is the completion of the 6,000 years as told by uh, um, what we call the 6,000 year return of the Messiah age. Okay, the Messiah age will end in 6,000 years, which is the 2024 year in the Hebrew year, which would be 5784, which is in the Berber year 2974. All right, which is our year in the present year we have today. Okay, so we see that according to the Jewish legends, folklore, the Talmud, the Midrash, and Zohar state that the date which the Messiah will appear is 6,000 years from creation. And when we talk about creation, we talk about the creation of the universe, creation of the planets, creation of this planet, creation of all life on this planet. Okay, all life on this planet. The Talmud was the centerpiece of the cultural life and was the foundational to all Jewish thought and aspiration, serving also as a guide for all daily life. Okay, so the Talmud was a guide for all daily life, which all those who follow that guide must follow. Okay, this is why we do what we do. All right, this is why Alfred the Great encoded the Masonic code or the Mosaic code, which consists of the Talmud, the Mishra, and the Zohar, because he understood what it is that we're supposed to be remembering. Okay? It said the Talmud was the guide for daily life. 2, the Midrash, which means resort to, seek with care, inquire, or to require. Okay? So the Midrash was a decree to them to resort to understand, to determine, okay? To decide, resort to, seek with care, inquire, or require, which means to be learning, okay? To learn something, okay? What is you supposed to be learning, and what is that learning is supposed to be part of your daily life? So whatever you're supposed to be learning was supposed to be part of your daily life. And what it is you were learning that was part of your daily life was based upon that was written in the Zohar. Okay? And the Zohar was the Hebrew means splendor or radiance. Okay? And what was this splendor or radiance? Let's read about it. Zohar, which means splendor or radiance, is a foundational work of the Kabbalistic literature. It is a group of books including commentaries on the mystical aspect of the Torah, the 5 books of Moses, and the scriptural interpretation, as well as the material on mysticism, mystical cosmogony, and mystical psychology. You hear that? Mythical cosmogony and mythical psychology. The Zohar contains discussion of the nature of God, the origin and structure of the universe, the nature of the soul, redemption, relationship of the ego to darkness, and the true self to the light of God. Okay? This is what King Alfred the Great encoded what we call the Dooms book, as well as what King Edward the People incorporated in the English Spinning of the Time Reform, which we'll discuss in a second. Okay? Follow the rabbit hole, y'all. The Dome Book, Code of Alfred, or Legal Code of Alfred, the Great was a code of laws, doomed being laws of judgment, compiled by Alfred the Great in 893 AD. AD, unless the meaning in the year of our Lord. Alfred codified three prior Saxon codes, those of Athelbert of Kent, Enea Wessex, and Opha Mercia, to which he prefixed a modified version of the Ten Commandments of Moses and incorporated rules of the life from a Mosaic code and the Christian code of ethics. Okay, this deals with liturgical prayers and liturgical days. Okay, this deals with mass. Okay, it all comes to the ceremonies that were performed by the masses of people who were affiliated with the church. Okay, which were affiliated with the church. Okay. The title Doom Book, Old English Doombok, comes from the Old English word doom, meaning judgment or law, as in Alfred's admonishment to doom very evenly. Do not doom one doom to the rich, another to the poor, nor doom one doom to your friend, another to your foe. This reflects the Mosaic law, which said, you should do no injustice in judgment. You should not be partial to the poor, nor defer to the great, but you are to judge your neighbor fairly. All right, we're judging them fairly. Yeah, more like Father Blackwell. I like that, Mr. Tursi. The Christian theologian F. N. Lee has simply documented Alfred the Great's work of collecting the law codes from the three Christian Saxon kingdoms and compiling them into his Doom book. Lee tells how Alfred incorporated the principles of the Mosaic law into his code and how this code of Alfred became the foundation for the common law. You hear that? So the Mosaic code was part of the common law, all right? And the foundation of common law was founded by Alfred the Great. And now we see that that coded law, i.e., the common law, coded by Alfred the Great, which was the Mosaic law from Moses, as well as the laws governing Ethelbert, Kent, and the Knee. All right. We know Ethelbert of Kent, and Knee of Wessex, and Opha of Mercia, which were laws practiced by our ancestors when they were being invaded by Christianity through the Gregorian mission in the 6th century by Pope Gregory the First under the authors of Pope Gregory the First, Augustine of Canterbury. Okay, Pope Gregory the First had all the Anglo-Saxon births converted to Christianity by Augustine of Canterbury. Okay, and we know that Alfred the Great corrected do what they call the ancient Town reform, which started with Alfred the Great and ended with King Edward the People. Okay, which was the reformation of the English Time reform. Okay, which we'll talk about in a second. Okay. 1154, Henry II became the first Plantagenet king. Among many achievements, Henry institutionalized the common law by creating a unified system of law, common law, to the country through incorporating and elevating local customs to the national, ending local control and peculiarities, and eliminating arbitrary remedies, and reinstating a jury system, citizens sworn on oath to investigate reliable criminal accusations and civil claims. So all that became personified or modified to what we call the common law, which we have today. But it goes back to the common law, going back to time immemorial, which was the laws governed by our ancestors, which consists of the Mosaic Code, the code going back to Opha Mercia, and Leo Weston, and Ethelbert of Kent. Okay? We must understand that. Page 14. The jury reached its verdict through evaluating common local knowledge, not necessarily through the presentation of evidence, a distinguishing factor from today's civil and criminal court system. We know God is the ultimate judge, okay? Ether is the ultimate judge, because all things must be subject to ether. How I know that? Let's read. The English Town reform or Mosaic reform The English Benedictine Reform or Mosaic Reform. Okay, this is the purpose of intent for why the Benedictine Reform took place in the first place, to restore our true estate as a third being. You don't believe me? Watch me prove it. The English Benedictine Reform or monistic reform of the English Church in the late 10th century was a religious and intellectual movement in the later Anglo-Saxon period. In the mid-10th century, almost all monasteries were staffed by secular mid-10th century by secular parts of by parts of. The English Benedictine Reform or monistic reform of English Church in the late 10th century was a religious and intellectual movement in the later Anglo-Saxon period. In the mid-10th century, almost all monasteries were staffed by secular clergy who were often married. The reformers sought to replace these celibate contemplative monks following the rule of Saint Benedict. The movement was inspired by continental monastic reform called the Cluny Reform, and the leading figures were Dunstan, Archbishop of Canterbury, Ethelward, Bishop of Winchester, and Oswald, Archbishop of York. In the 7th and 8th century England, most monasteries were Benedictine, but in the 9th century, learning in monasticism declined severely. Alfred the Great in 871 to 899 deplored the decline and started to reverse it. The court of Atherton, noble stone, the first king of the whole of England, was a cosmopolitan. Hear that word, cosmopolitan. Cosmo, all right? So he knew this information. And future reformers such as Dunstan and Ethelward learned from the continental exponent of the Benedictine monasticism. The English movement became dominant under King Edward in 959 to 975, who supported the expulsion of secular clergy from monasteries and cathedral chapters and their replacement by monks. The reformers had close relations with the crown, furthering its interest and depending on it for support. Continue. That brings us to the new minister's charter. The new minister's charter is an Anglo-Saxon illuminated manuscript that was likely composed by Bishop Ethelward and presented to new ministers in Winchester by King Edward in the year 966. The English Benedictine Reform under the English Benedictine parts of the English Benedictine Reform that took place in Westminster Abbey in 959 came before the new minister's charter. All right. Once again, the English Benedictine Reform that was started from Alfred the Great and ended with King Edward the Peaceful, which started with the English Benedictine Reform, which was in Westminster Abbey, which was founded in 959, came before the new minister's charter, which we're reading about now. New minister's charter was the charter in Anglo-Saxon, which was an illuminated manuscript that was likely composed by Bishop Ethelward and presented to the new minister in Winchester by King Edward in the year 966 AD, Annos Domini, the year of our Lord, to commemorate the Benedictine Reform in 959. It is now part of the British Library collection. It's approximately 963 AD. Bishop Ethelward of Winchester required the monk, a new minister, under the threat of eviction, to adopt Benedictine rule. This decision was made with the approval of King Edward, who reigned in England from 959 until his death in 975. Y'all better listen. New minister Liber Vitae, the Book of Life. Okay, so those who are now written that Book of Life from the time of King Edward the Peaceful to the present day, when now reincarnated in him, are in a world of trouble, because the purpose of Mass is to honor the saints, the martyrs, and the apostles who had came before us, okay? Under the same cosmopolitan teaching that was which was a continental movement going back to time immemorial, okay? So we see the English Benedictine Reform that took place in Westminster Abbey, founded in 959 by King Edward the Peaceful, resulted in what we call the new minister's charter, okay? And the new minister's charter brought forth the new minister's Liber Vitae, which is called the new minister's confraternity book, okay? It's a fraternal order, okay? All members of the Third Temple English Church of England is part of a fraternal order, internal confraternity order, okay? As a result of the new minister's Liber Vitae, which is nothing more than what we call the Book of Life. Let's prove it. The new minister Liber Vitae is a confraternity book produced in Winchester in southern England in 1031. After the new minister's charter and after the English Benedictine Reform, Then they created a new ministry of the Verb Vitae, which is a confraternity book. It records the names of visitors to the new ministers of Winchester. Okay? Let's read some more about it. A confraternity book, also called a Verb Vitae, a book of life, is a medieval register of the names of people who had entered into a state of spiritual brotherhood, confraternity with a church or monastery in some way, often by visiting it in the capacity of a pilgrim. Okay, so that's what you're doing now. Now the physical church for the spiritual church, all right, and the etheric church made by etheric hands. Okay, made by etheric hands. All right, you must understand. So if you're a part of the Third Temple English Church, then you're being recorded in New Ministers Liber Vitae, which is a confraternity book, a book of membership, okay? A spiritual brotherhood. You better understand what's going on. I already know that. Let's look at the books. This is New Ministers Charter. As you can see, New Ministers Charter, New Ministers Liber Vitae. All right? Look at the book. The book is closed. Here, the book is open. Okay? The book is open. When King Edgar the People handed the charter, that's the incorporation or the Christ-like station that he'll be representing. Okay? That's why you have the New Ministry Book of Life. Now, King Edgar is sitting in the position with the Book of Life open, okay? Which is called New Ministry Liber Vitae. All right? Liber Vitae means Book of Life. You'll find that Liber Vitae mentioned in Ecclesiastical 24, chapter 24, verse 22. In Latin, Haec omnia Liber Vitae et testamentum altis, if I'm pronouncing wrong, please forgive me, altis to me, et aconito vertitalis, legum mendabat mosaeus in precipitis desideratum el hadrilatum, Yamun Jacob et Israel permissions. I know I pronounced that wrong, but forgive me. I don't speak Latin. Let's read it in English now. But it's in a different verse in Ecclesiasticus. In Ecclesiasticus. All right? Chapter 24, verse 23. All these things are the book of the covenant of the highest God, even the law which Moses commanded for inheritance unto the congregation of Jacob. Faith not to be strong in the Lord, that he may confirm you, cleave unto him, for the Lord Almighty and God alone, and beside him there is no other Savior. Okay, once again, faith not to be strong for itself. All these things are in the book of the covenant, i.e., the Verb Vitae, book of life, of the highest God, even the law which Moses commanded for inheritance unto the congregation of Jacob. Faith not to be strong in the Lord, that he may confirm you, cleave unto him, for the Lord Almighty is God alone, and besides him there is no other Savior. Do y'all hear that? Now we're reading based upon the new minister of the Verb Vitae, which is the book of life, all right, which is based upon an illuminated manuscript, okay? And the new minister's charter is an Anglo-Saxon illuminated manuscript, is formally prepared document where the text is decorated with flourishes such as borders and miniature illustrations, often used in the Roman Catholic Church for prayers and liturgical books such as psalters and courtly literature. The practice continue into secular texts. The practice continued to secular texts from the 13th century onward and typically included proclamation, enroll bills, laws, charters, inventories, as well as deeds. Okay, as well as deeds. All right, so it dealt with liturgical practices. Okay, liturgical practices have to deal with the masses of people who attended the church. All right, that's why when you go to Roman Catholic Church, they attend mass. Okay, they attend mass. So we know the people who attend mass are those human beings made of mass, i.e., matter. Okay, but we know that that's not what we're made of. All right, so that's why we don't teach those type of things in our church. When we teach in this church, we teach it from the original content, dealing with the true origin of who we are, God in its truest state, which is ether. Okay, because it said ether created the heavens and the earth. It said ether preeminated space, which is void, and which is what they call, which is by way of vacuum, where light can travel. We know light is energy. We know energy is the message that we're supposed to receive through converting that electrical, through converting that energy into a what they call a neural stimulation, which creates a, what they call electrical signal, which creates a way for us to discern incoming transduction. We know transduction is the stimulation or the neural oscillation or the brain wave that we receive, okay, either from our five faculties or through our mental faculties. One of the two, okay? One of the two. Let's do a proper math or proper litigary, all right? Proper litigary and ordinary litigary, let's just look this up. I'm going to look this up. Well said, Archbishop, the law made manifest. Invariant mass, right? Invariant mass. Grand mass, you see right up here? It says proper litigary, right here. Proper mass, we direct here for literal mass, proper, okay? Proper literary mass. We're going to hit that real quick. Invariant mass. The invariant mass, rest mass, intrinsic mass, proper mass, or in the case of bound system, simply mass, is the portion of total mass of an object or system of objects that is independent of the overall motion of the system. Okay? Once again, the invariant mass, rest mass, intrinsic mass, proper mass, or in the case of bound system, simply mass, is the portion of the total mass of an object or system of objects that is independent of the overall motion, kinetic energy of the system. More precisely, it is a characteristic of the system's total energy and momentum that is the same in all frames of reference. Remember I mentioned that word before, frames of reference, when we first started out? That it's the same in all references related by Lorentz transmission. We go back to that in a second, but I just want to hit the word proper math. When you're dealing with proper math um, from what we call uh, metaphysical, or what we call astro, or what we call biological perspective, then you're dealing with what we call energy. All right, energy, invariant mass, mass, intrinsic mass, or proper mass denotes to energy, which we'll qualify in a second, but it's directed to what we call proper literary, which is called proper mass. Okay, let's look at that real quick. So we're talking about the ancient space-time reform, which was something that was created by Alfred the Great by way of encoding all the laws from Ethelbert of Kent, Oprah Mercia, and Leo Wessex, as well as the codes of Moses, all right? And then that filtered down to what we call the ancient space-time reform, started by King Edward the Peaceful when Westminster Abbey was founded in 959. And then they created what they call a new minister's charter, which then, after that, they created what they call new ministers, the verb pertain, which is the book of life, in regard to the confraternity of what we call spiritual brotherhood. Not physical brotherhood, but spiritual brotherhood. We know spirit is in the abstract, in the concrete means etheric or ether brotherhood. Okay? We must understand that. And this is the reason why we're gathering today, because it's the proper liturgy. It's the proper way to come together. All right? The proper is a part of the Christian liturgy that varies according to the date, either representing an observance within the liturgical year or a particular saint or significant event. Okay? This is why we have the Sabbath day. Remember, once again, the proper liturgy is a part of the Christian liturgy that varies according to the date, either representing observance within the liturgical year or a particular saint or significant event. The term is usually in contrast to the ordinary, which is that part of liturgy that is reasonably constant, or at least selected without regards to the date or to the common, which contains those parts of the liturgy that are common to an entire category of saints, such as apostles and martyrs. Okay, and that's why the new ministry Liber Vitae was created. All right, all those saints, martyrs, and as well as apostles. Okay, so we understand that the proper liturgy deals with ceremonies that deal with the accommodations of those who gather at mass. Okay, this has to do with mass. Now we're dealing with mass as a form of gathering under the liturgical year, according to liturgical practices. But we're not looking at it how they look at it today. We're looking at our gathering from proper mass going back to a state of energy, being that it's a spiritual mass of confraternity or spiritual brotherhood. Okay, that's how we should look at it. Let's go back to the interpretation of proper mass, not from how we receive today as displayed by the churches, but how it should be displayed by the churches. Okay, on the proper mass. Let's go back. This is called an invariant mass. We're not going to read it from here. We're going to read it from our book, Genesis. All right, proper mass or proper liturgy. Which one? Which one? The invariant mass, rest mass, intrinsic mass, or proper mass, or in the case of bound system simply mass, is the portion of the total mass of an object or system of objects that is independent of the overall motion of the system. More precisely, a it is a characteristic of the system total energy and momentum. Energy and momentum, that's energy and motion. That's kinetic energy that is the same in all frames of references related by Lorentz transformation. If a center of momentum frame exists for the system, then the invariant mass of a system is equal to its total mass in the rest frame. In other reference frames where the system momentum is non-zero, the total mass, aka relativistic mass of the system, is greater than the invariant mass, but the invariant mass remains unchanged. Okay, the proper mass remains unchanged. I'm going to find it even better. Because of mass energy equivalence, the rest energy of the system is simply the invariant mass times the speed of light squared. Similarly, the total energy of the system It's the total energy of the system is its total relativistic mass times the speed of light squared. Now we know that ether permeates space by way of vacuum, which is void or empty, which light can travel to. We know light travels, which we know when light travels at the speed of light. When you're looking at it from astrobiology, versus we're looking at it from how we perceive light. So it says in physics and astronomy, a frame of reference or reference frame is an abstract coordinate system whose origin, or orientation, and scale are specified by a set of reference points. Remember when we started about when the universe was created. Let's just go through it real quick. What page is it? Reference is called reference frame of reference. Go back to the opening of the book when we make reference to the frame of reference. Frame of reference, right here. Frame of reference. The first observational evidence for dark energy existence came from measurement of supernova. That's your frame of reference. Top 1A supernovas have constant luminosity, which means they can be used as accurate distant measures, i.e., frame of reference. All right? Remember I said we was going to use that term again, and that's when the term come up. Go back there. So what is our frame of reference? Okay? What is our frame of reference? That's what we want to use. Our frame of reference is ether. Okay? Dark energy. All right? Dark energy is ether, and ether is dark energy. Okay? And it could be measured by way of what we call a frame of reference. Okay? A frame of reference to what we call proper mass or rest mass. Okay? Proper mass or rest mass. We know proper mass or rest mass is what we should be on as a fraternity of spiritual, like-minded people. Okay, our spiritual like-minded people. Here in physics and astronomy, a frame of reference or reference frame is an abstract coordinate system whose origin or orientation and scale are specified by a set of reference points. In Einsteinian relativity, reference frames are used to specify the relationship between a moving observer and the phenomenon under observation. Did you hear that, y'all? Did you hear that? In physics and astronomy, a frame of reference or reference frame is an abstract, it is a concrete, is an abstract coordinate system whose origin, origination, and scale are specified by a set of reference points. In Einsteinian relativity, reference frames are used to specify the relationship between a moving observer and the phenomenon under observation. The moving self, the moving self under Einsteinian relativity do energy matter constant speed of light, which is called antimatter, which is called dark energy, which created space time, which is called general relativity, general theory of relativity. You got special theory of relativity, you got general theory of relativity. It's not talking about general theory of relativity, it's talking about special theory of relativity by way of the reference frames which are used by the observer based upon what's being observed. Okay? In this context, the term also becomes observational frame of references or observational reference frame, which implies that the observer is at rest in the frame, although not necessarily located at its origin. Once again, in this context, the term also becomes observational frame of references or observational reference frame, which implies that the observer is at rest in the frame. The observer is at rest in the frame, meaning that it's not moving. Okay? But it can cause things to move. Okay? It's not moving, but it can cause things to move. That's called motion. Okay? That's called motion. It's called kinetic energy. All right? Kinetic energy is the word kinesis. All right? And through telekinesis, you can make things move with your mind. Okay? Once again, telekinesis is a form of movement that can be done with your mind, all right, which is a faculty that we should be able to do, okay? I'm teaching you how to do it based off understanding physics and astronomy from the frame of reference, okay? From the frame of reference from the observer and what the observer is observing, okay? All right? We're observing with our astral body or our etheric body God's creation because we are the ones who created the creation. Okay? You must understand that. I don't know about nine ether beings because I don't want to make that reference because that's Dr. Malachi taught. You know what I'm saying? And I was a student of Dr. Malachi. But there, when you say nine ether, ether is just ether. Okay? You know, it had nothing to do with the number nine. Number nine is you got 10, 11, 12, 13. So you want to say number nine ether because that's something that somebody make up to fit their theories or their thoughts or whatever the case may be. All right. It said in physics and astronomy, the frame of reference is an abstract coordinate system whose origin, orientation, and scale are specified by the set of reference point, i.e., measurement. And Einsteinian relativity reference frames are used to specify the relationship between the moving observer and the phenomenon of under the observation. Okay. Proper Latin propinquity. Now we look at the word proper mass. We know proper mass has to do with rest mass, okay? And rest mass has to do with the observation of what's being observed by the observer, all right, i.e. the self, okay? And we know that rest mass has to deal with ether because if it's stationary, that means that it's not moving, okay? It's not moving, but it calls things to move, okay? So it says when you're dealing with mass from the literary standpoint or the Christian theology, then we understand it in this way, which says proper literary is a part of the Christian literary that varies according to the date. Either we represent the observation within a literal year or a particular saint of significant event. These saints will be our martyrs, our apostles, or those who came before, all right, our predecessors. The term is used in contrast to the ordinary, which deals with those that are governed under what we call the Roman Catholic Church. If you can look up ordinary literary, and it'll tell you that the Roman Catholic Church, okay? We're not the Roman Catholic Church. Let's move forward. The great chain of being, very important. The great chain of being is a part of the what we call the tree of life, i.e., the biology tree, okay? Which is the process of evolution, going back to the eukaryotic cell. All is a part of the great chain of being, which starts from God. We know God created the heaven and earth, and we know God is not a physical being because God is energy, and that energy is dark energy that you call ether. Okay? That you call ether. The great chain of being. So I'll break it down, y'all. The great chain of being is a hierarchical structure of all matter in life. Okay? Thought by the medieval Christians to have been decreed by God. The chain begins with God and descends through angels, humans, animals, plants to minerals. This is all about evolution, y'all. You hear that? You look up the great chain of being, it's right there on Wikipedia. All right? Nothing new. The chain of being hierarchy has God at the top, above the angels, which like human, which like him are entirely spirit, without material bodies, and hence unchangeable. Did you hear that? The great chain of being is a hierarchical structure of all matter and life. And you know, matter and life can only exist by way of energy. All right? Energy. Though by medieval Christianity to have been decreed by God, the chain begins with God and descends through angels, humans, animals, plants to minerals. The chain of being hierarchy has God at the top, above angels, which like him are entirely spirit without material bodies and hence unchangeable. That would mean that spirit is etheric. Okay, so if God, and we pray to God in God's image, that means we are etheric beings. Okay, I got you. How about that? Here come now. You know, rest mass, all right, or proper mass, again, rest mass or proper mass is governed by what we call uh, a frame of reference, okay? A frame of reference, i.e., measurement, okay? Measurement, the invariant mass, rest mass, intrinsic mass, or proper mass, or the proper way we should see self, all right? The proper way we see self is a portion of the total mass of an object or system of objects that is independent of the overall motion of the system. So our biological systems are systems that we call human. We have something within us that's separate from the system. All right. And in order for us to determine that, we must use the proper frame of reference. Okay. The proper frame of reference. Chain of being. All right. And it says the frame of reference in physics and astronomy. A frame of reference or reference frame is an abstract coordinate system whose origin, orientation, and scale are specified by the set of reference points, i.e., point A to point B to point C. Okay? In Einstein relativity, reference frames are used to specify the relationship between a moving observer, okay, a moving observer and the phenomenon under the observation. So some observer is watching something take place, okay, because of the observation. And this context, the term often becomes observational frame of reference or observational reference frame, which implies that the observer is at rest in the frame, although not necessarily located at its origin. Okay, very important for you got to understand that. Why? Because it goes back to the chain of being, the great chain of being. The great chain of being is a hierarchical structure of all matter and life. Okay, though by medieval Christianity to have been decreed by God. This is the way the masses understand it based off the literary teaching that you find in churches today. But when we teach it in our church, the literary meaning is not how we perceive it. We receive it based off the proper mass, going back to the true observer and the true teller of the story. Okay, the true teller of the story is energy. All right, because God is energy. God is energy. Let's prove it. The great chain of being is a hierarchical structure of all matter in life, though by medieval Christianity have been decreed by God. Okay, so what is God? The chain begins with God and descends through angels, humans, animals, plants to minerals. So we know that humans, animals, and plants came by way of what we call the eukaryotic cell, okay? We know that the minerals that contain the eukaryotic cells was based upon those prokaryotic cells that were implanted in the earth or embedded in the earth when earth started to form prior to the genetic material being embedded inside what we call water, all right, which is called germs and viruses known as archaea and bacteria, okay? So we understand that the beginning of the chain, all right, begins with God and descends through angels, humans, animals, plants, to minerals. The chain of being hierarchy has God at the top, above angels, which like him are entirely spirit, without material bodies, and hence unchangeable. So that means that angels, the Anglo-Saxon Berbers, are actually angels, which are spirit, and we know spirit is a etheric being, just like God. So it means that we are unchangeable if we use the frame of reference that was given to us to use, okay? And that was given by the Roman Catholic Church. You're right, omnipotent. See, the chain of being hierarchy has God at the top, above angels, which like him are entirely spirit. So we must understand our spiritual bodies or our etherical bodies, which we will in a second, without material bodies. So we must see ourselves without our material or our bodies made of matter, or what we call um, uh, uh, what we call mass, matter, or what we call volume, okay? We must see ourselves from a dense matter, okay? All right, a dense matter. So it says, the chain of being hierarchy has God at the top, above angels, which like him are entirely spirit without material body. Material body. Material body is a body made of mass, matter, volume, and hence unchangeable. So God is unchangeable because he's not made of material matter or volume. Beneath him are humans consisting both of spirit and matter. You hear that? Spirit and matter. They change and die and are thus essentially impermanent. Okay? Impermanent. Lower are the animals in the plant. You hear that? Better. At the bottom are the minerals and materials of the earth itself. They consist only of matter. Okay? So matter without spirit. Human beings have spirit and matter, and we know angels are just spirit, okay, composed of antimatter, okay. Thus, the higher the being higher the being is in the chain, the more attributes it has, including all the attributes of the beings below it. You hear that? Thus, the higher the being is in the chain, the more attributes it has, including all the attributes of the beings below it. The minerals are, in the medieval mind, a possible exception to the immutability of the material beings in the chain, as alchemy promised to turn lower elements like lead into those higher up the chain like silver and gold. This is through what we call atomic diffusion, okay? Molecular diffusion, which we'll talk about in a second, okay? So let's define the spirit, since we know God is spirit and not matter, okay? Matter being matter meaning mass, okay? All right? So we want to see, what is the spirit? Spirit. Spirit is a vital principle or animated essence within the humans or in some view, all living things. So it is that which animates us. That's called the breath of life. The breath of life. That gift of life. Okay? Without that breath of life, nothing would exist. Okay? Now you got the soul. What is the soul? Soul is a non-material essence of a person, which includes one's identity, personality, and memories, an immaterial aspect of essence of a living being that is believed to be able to survive physical death. So with the soul, you can understand the spirit, okay? Because the soul is the memories of the spirit, okay? That make that based upon the essence of the spirit, okay, from which it originated. And we know the spirit is ether, okay? The spirit is ether. And the only way you can obtain ether is by remembering the ether through the soul, okay? The consciousness part of you, okay? All right? That's going to be done through thought. So what is thought? In the most common sense, the term thought and thinking refers to the conscious cognitive process that can happen independently of any sensory stimulation. Did you hear that? Thought is the ability to be able to think, which is a cognitive process that's independent of any sensory stimulation. Y'all better understand what I'm saying. Hold that thought. Thought. Know what spirit is, right? Spirit is the essence of who we truly are. You know what I'm saying? And that's we know a spirit is what gives us our vitality. Okay. It gives the ability to be animate, right? That's the breath of life. Okay. All animals have it. Plants, animal kingdom, plant kingdom, humans, all right? You know what I'm saying? And we know that came from something, all right? Very important. So in order for us to understand where it came from, we must understand the soul, because the soul will give us the memories of where that came from through identifying through the true self, all right? Through that, because it says the soul is the non-material essence of a person, which includes one's identity, personality, and memories and immaterial aspects of the essence of the living being that is believed to be able to survive physical death, right? Thought. Thought is, in the most common sense, the term thought and thinking refers to conscious cognitive processes that can happen independently of any sensory stimulation. The most paradigmatic form are judging, reasoning, concept formation, problem solving, and deliberation. But other mental processes like considering an idea, memory, or imagination are also included. Okay? Are also included. That's all originated as a part of the soul. Okay? So thought is a faculty of the soul. And in order way to get to the spirit, you must use the faculty of the soul, which is through thought, all right? Which derives from what we call consciousness. What is consciousness? Consciousness at its simplest is the awareness of eternal and external existence. In order for you to know you exist, you must have consciousness. And in order to have consciousness, you must have a spirit. Okay? You must have that vitality. And you must be cognizant of that vitality. Okay? What is cognition? Cognition is the mental action or process of acquiring knowledge and understanding through thought. Okay? Through thought, experience, in the senses. Okay? It encompasses all aspects of all intellectual functions and processes such as perception, intention, thought, imagination, intelligence, the formation of knowledge, memory, and the working memory, judging and evaluation, reasoning, computation, problem solving, decision making, comprehension, production of language, cognitive processes use existing knowledge to discover new knowledge. Okay? So we're always learning, all right, through thought under our cognitive skills, which gives us the ability to remember by way of what we call the soul about the spirit from which we originated, which is nothing more than our etheric self. All right. And sensory stimulation, because we know consciousness is the awareness of ourselves, internal and external, without sensory stimulation. Okay? What is sensory stimulation? In physiology, a stimulus is a detectable change in physical or chemical structure of an organism, internal or external environment. The ability of an organism or organ to detect external stimuli so that the appropriate reaction can be made, i.e., potential action, i.e., action potential. All right, energy potential. All right, so it's the ability of an organism or organ to detect internal stimuli so that an appropriate reaction can be made. It's called sensitivity or excitability. Sensory receptors can receive information from outside the body as in touch receptors found in the skin or light receptors in the eyes, as well as from inside the body as the chemoreceptors and mechanoreceptors, which when a stimulus is detected by a sensory receptor, it can elicit a reflex via stimulus transduction. Okay, so we know what transduction is. The transduction is the conversion of energy, i.e., message, into what they call a sensory stimuli, which create electrical signal. Okay, all right, and everything that has life in it are able to have that sensory perception. Okay, but all life does not have that consciousness. Okay, all right. Although life that have that consciousness has to understand it from how the conscious came to be, which is based off the genetic material that was impregnated in that conscious development of whatever that organism is. Because all life is based off organisms, okay, living organisms, okay. And in order for us to understand that, based off the great chain of being, we must understand the tree of life from a biological perspective, okay? Because we understand that in order to understand our true self, we must understand astrobiology, okay? And astrobiology deals with the study of the stars, okay? Contrast to physical biology, all right? Things that are made of as humans, plants, animals, okay? Including minerals and rock, etc. Okay? So the tree of biology, which is called the ladder of life, the ladder of life. You see? All the different stages, God being first, angels, all right, which are spirits. Then you have humans, which have spirit and matter. And then you have uh, rocks and earth, which is made of matter. Okay, matter. The tree of life or universal tree of life is a metaphor or conceptual model and research tool used to explore evolution of life and describe the relationship between organisms, both living and extinct. Okay? That's what the tree of life, understanding from a biological perspective, to understand all life organisms and that those are living and those are extinct and relative and the relationship they have with each other. Okay, based on what we call the last universal common ancestor. Okay, last universal common ancestor. All right, so understanding the tree of life through biology is how we understand how things came to be. All right. We know that the prokaryotic cell was the first genetic material or single cell organism here on planet Earth, which gave birth to the eukaryotic cell to give birth to all multicellular organisms, okay, which all have the breath of life in it, or what we call living organisms, okay, living organisms. They have what they call let's go back to it, chain of being. Know that the God and the angels are a tiny spirit, okay, Hence, don't have any material bodies, so they're not made of matter, thus are unchangeable. But humans are made of spirit and matter, just like animals, plants, all right, birds, etc. Contrast to rocks, who are not composed of the spirit, but they are composed of matter. Okay. So tree of life or universal tree of life is a metaphor, conceptual model, or research tool to explore the evolution of life and describe the relationship between organisms, both living and extinct, going back to the last universal common ancestor, because this is how horizontal gene transfer takes place, okay, versus vertical gene transfer, okay? We must understand that. Horizontal gene transfer takes place with the prokaryotic cell, and vertical gene transfer happens with the eukaryotic cell, okay? Let's get there. Horizontal gene transfer. Horizontal gene transfer, or HTT, or lateral gene transfer, LGT, is the movement of genetic material between organisms other than the vertical transmission of DNA from parent to offspring through what we call reproduction. There are several mechanisms for horizontal gene transfer, okay? Transformation or transduction, okay? Transformation is the genetic alteration of cell resulting from the introduction, uptake, and expression of foreign genetic material, DNA or RNA. This process is relatively common in bacteria, but less so in eukaryotic cells. Why? Because the prokaryotic cell is the one who transfers the genetic material, all right, through transduction, okay? That's why we had transduction periodic cell, transduction periodic, transduction periodic. It's a transduction, the process in which bacterial DNA is moved from one bacterium to another by virus or bacteriophagus or phage, if I pronounce it right. One, the prokaryotic, the two domain of bacteria and archaea, and certain animals such as bedalloids, rotifers, freely pass genetic information between unrelated organisms by a horizontal gene transfer. Recombination, gene loss, duplication, and gene creation are a few of the processes by which genes can be transferred between bacteria and archaeal species, causing variation that is not due to vertical transfer, i.e., through reproduction. All right? Through reproduction. All right. This brings us to what we call self-atomic diffusion. Okay? Self-atomic diffusion. Because we know that engrams store the memories, all right, by way of biochemical and biophysical, all right, information that is embedded in our DNA, okay? Embedded in our DNA, all right? And we know that human beings are made of spirit and matter. God is just made of spirit, and the angels are made of spirit. And we know that God is the ether that created all things. And we know ether preeminates space, which is void of matter, which light can travel. We know light is energy, and energy is messages that are converted to what we call electrical sensory stimulation, which in return become what we call electrical signal. All right, which calls self-atomic diffusion. Okay, self-atomic diffusion, and self-atomic diffusion is chemical physics. In chemical physics, is atomic diffusion is a diffusion process whereby the random thermal activated movement of atoms in a solid results in the net transport of atoms, which means kinetic energy, motion. Okay. In chemical physics, atomic diffusion is a diffusion process whereby the random thermal activated movement of atoms in a solid result in the net transport of atoms. Okay. This brings up what we call self-kinetic energy, because thermodynamics has to deal with kinetic energy. Self-kinetic energy. In physics, the kinetic energy of an object is the form of energy that it possesses due to its motion. Okay? In physics, the kinetic energy of an object is the form of energy that it possesses due to its motion. The active kinetic has its roots in the Greek word kinesis, meaning motion, the dichotomy between kinetic energy and potential energy, i.e., action potential, action potential is the same as potential energy, okay, which is called kinetic energy or thermodynamic, okay, which deals with motion, energy and motion caused by what we call emotion, all right. Self-kinetic energy, or what we call atomic diffusion, all right, it's nothing more than what we call self-molecular diffusion, okay? Self-molecular diffusion. Through thought, all this is happening by way of what we call thought, okay? Molecular diffusion, often simply called diffusion, is the thermal motion, all right, of all liquid or gas particles at temperatures above absolute zero. So temperatures above absolute zero are things that are composed of matter, mass, volume, which has potential energy or action potential as a result of transduction, okay, which is the conversion of energy into what we call a chemical or physical stimuli, which needs interpretation, okay? Interpretation. But you can't interpret it on the molecular level or an atomic level because you have to be your actual self or your spiritual self, because that's what the true self or the spiritual self or the etheric self is composed of, energy, okay? On a molecular level, okay? Molecular diffusion, often simply called diffusion, is the thermal motion of all liquid or gases, particles at temperatures above absolute zero. All right. So what is absolute zero? Absolute zero is the lowest limit of the thermodynamic temperature scale, i.e., kinetic energy. All right. Absolute zero is the lowest limit of the dynamic temperature scale, a state in which the enthalpy, if I pronounce it wrong, enthalpy or entropy of a cool ideal gas reaches their minimum value, taken as zero Kelvin. The fundamental particles of natural have minimum vibrational motion, retaining only a quantum mechanical 0 point energy induced particle motion, i.e., uh, uh, what it says, absolute zero is considered what they call 0 point energy. All right, 0 point energy. 0 point energy, ZPE, is the lowest possible energy that a quantum mechanical system may have. All these fields have 0 point energy. These fluctuated 0 point fields lead to a kind of reintroduction of an ether in physics. Did you hear that? Of an ether in physics. Okay, so 0 point energy or absolute energy is the lowest energy point of all matter. This is called by what we call vacuum. Vacuum, void of space, where light can travel as a result of permeated space caused by ether. Okay, which is nothing more than kinetic energy called action potential or potential energy, which we're reading now. Potential energy in close. Potential energy in physics, potential energy is the energy held by an object because of its positive related to another object. Stresses within itself is electrical charge or other factors. Common types of potential energy include gravitational potential energy of an object, the elastic potential energy of an extended spring, or the electric potential energy of electrical charge and the electrical field. That's called electromagnetism. Okay? These are all types of potential energy or action potential, okay, through transduction. Action potential. Action potential occurs when the membrane potential of a specific cell rapidly rises and falls, okay? Motion. Action potential and action potential occurs when the membrane potential of a specific cell rapidly rises and falls, all right? Membrane potential. All cells that are eukaryotic have membrane in the nucleus within the cell, okay, which contains the genetic material that is the information for it to be to evolve, okay, to move. Involving means involves motion, Motion involves kinetic energy, okay, or potential energy, or actual potential energy as a result of the energy embedded in the membrane, okay? And the membrane, what is membrane potential? Membrane potential, also transmembrane potential or membrane voltage, is the difference in electrical potential between the interior or the exterior of a biological cell. Did y'all hear that? This is called electrical potential. Let's read it. Electrical potential, also called electric field potential, potential drop, or electrostatic potential, is defined as the amount of work energy needed per unit of electric charge to move the charge from a reference point to a specific point in the electrical field, i.e., reference point. Okay, measurement. Okay, so electrical potential is the ability to be able to uh, defined as the amount of work energy needed per unit of electrical charge to move the charge from a reference point to a specific point in the electrical field, known as electromagnetism. Okay, what's electromagnetism? And electromagnetism in physics, electromagnetism is an interaction that occurs between particles with electric charge via electromagnetic field. Okay, electromagnetic field. All right. So this is the reason why the laws of King Alfred the Great was coded, right? Because in order for us to get back to our self, true self, we must understand the faculties of transduction. I'll close on that. Again, electromagnetism, active potential, electric potential, or what we call active potential. All right. It says transduction. In physicality, transduction, which is the translation of arriving stimulus into an action potential by a sensory receptor. It begins with the stimulus changes the membrane potential of the receptor cell. A receptor cell converts the energy in the stimulus into an electrical signal. Receptors are external and eternal, okay? Which we call neural oscillation or brainwave, okay? Neural oscillation or brainwave. So with that, as you can see, the picture behind me is where we're trying to return. We're trying to get back to this state, our etheric state. The only way we can get there is to understand who we are as beings of energy, okay? As beings of energy, all right? With that, I digress, all right? Right, open the floor for questions or any remarks or any gratitudes for today's lesson, right? Let me hear any questions. Right, thank you, brother Noonley from the House of Noonley. All right. If there are no questions, once again, this particular book that was created is specifically for members of the Third Temple English Church. Thank you, Archbishop Belmont from the House of Belmont. Did everyone understand what was being said today in this lecture? That's the clue. Did everyone understand? Thank you, Countess Venus from the Countess Walker from the House of Walker. Once again, when we gather together as a family, we gather as spiritual family, okay? A spiritual family. And when we, as a spiritual family, we must talk about spiritual things, okay? Our main focus is how to get back to our spiritual self, how to get back to our creator, who is in spirit. as we said, according to the great chain of being, okay? In order to understand that, we must understand the tree of biology, which is the law governing ourselves, okay? With that, as always, I, your king, is going to greet you as I meet you, and that's always what we call peace, right? Thank you all for joining me today. Uh, next class will be Sunday. Next class will be Sunday at 7:15. Okay, 7:15. I'll see you there. Uh, uh, feel free to contribute on your own while I chime out. But once again, this information must be understood by each and every one of you in order for you to make it home. Okay, in order for you to make it home. So with that, I greet you as I meet you. That's in peace and love. Peace.